Hey, this is Tom Calvin. Thanks for tuning in to Tomorrow's Legends.
You think you know the story. You've heard it 100 times. But this is not the tale that you know, for this part of the story has yet to be written. Join Flash, Harley, and X-Force 11 as they take the Waverider into the near future and check in on some old friends. This is the new adventures of Superman and Lois, as chronicled by Tomorrow's Legends.
Yes, hello, super fam of Steel. It is finale week, or I guess more accurately, it was finale week. Not just one of our shows finished out, but two, Superman and Lois and The Flash, both ended their seasons, and we're going to talk about them both. There's been a lot of comparing online between the two, and we'll share our thoughts on that. But right now, just as the finale title says, waiting for Superman. You've been waiting for our Superman coverage. So here we go. I am quite possibly the Reverse Flash tonight.
I'm the oddly positive and shining ray of sunshine, Harley Quinn.
And I'm still the Blue Lantern of Hope, X-Force 11.
All right. 2 for 3.
Gideon, are you with me at least?
Yes, Captain.
Ah, okay, good.
All right, fine. 2 for 4.
Yeah.
I got Gideon on my side, yeah.
It's because you have the soundboard.
Soundboard? She's right here. What are you talking about? Do you know what she's talking about, Gideon?
I don't know what you're talking about.
See? She doesn't know either.
See how it is.
All right, let's get into some news, guys. We only got a little bit of news. What do you got, X-Force?
So, Arrowverse vet Tom Cavanaugh, who directed Superman and Lois Season 1's Last Sons of Krypton, in which Jordan was possessed by Zeta, is set to helm the Season 3 premiere of Superman and Lois. And he said, I'm super excited to play with the fancy technical tools they have over there. He effused to me on TV Line, is what our article goes on to say. With the anamorphic lenses, my God, you're making a widescreen movie all the time over there. So that was a neat little take, and good to know that we're starting off with somebody who knows and loves our show and has done work on it before. So that's neat.
Yeah, that'll be cool. And it is right. Like, there is that widescreen look all the time on Superman.
Yeah.
That's why it visually stands out. It's just beautiful.
The cinematography is quite stunning.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that's all we got. We just want to remind everybody that next week we did move the date to July 8th for our Legends wrap-up. That's Legends of Tomorrow finale, goodbye, farewell episode. And some feedback has been trickling in, so just want to remind you guys, you got another week. Send in your final thoughts on Legends.
Yep.
So we're going to say goodbye. And it's not going to be easy.
Sad face.
Well, let's get into this finale of Superman and Lois and see what we all thought.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
All right, X-Force, start us off.
So I gave this one 8.5 family fortresses. We know that seasons finales, they kind of work, with Superman and Lois. We had a little bit of it last year. 2/3 of the episode dealing with the big bads, 1/3 wrap up and tease for next season. Now, we were led to believe by some of the articles that Dig would tell us our place in the Arrowverse, but it was Sam instead. And Sam's speech and the TV Line article from Todd Helbing said that this is not Earth Prime and not Superman and Lois that we had in the Primeverse. And so in that article, they kind of break down that the decision was made in Season 1, but he wasn't allowed to reveal it until this season.
Interesting.
So that's... Yeah, they kind of told him that, he couldn't do that. So he had to give all these interviews, and things got cut out of the Supergirl on his desk and things like that. And so he was kind of handcuffed and not being able to tell it until this season. So that was kind of disappointing. So that kind of brought me down a little bit, but I understand why he didn't. But we'll get more into that. We'll
talk about it.
Yeah,
we've got points on it later.
Yeah. So I like that Dig kind of gave John Henry his plot for the next season, but overall, I think the finale was rushed for me. I agree that having 2/3 of it and then 1/3 be the wrap up, it was just a little bit rushed. I thought they could have extended things out a little bit longer and not had that rushed feel for the wrap up. But overall, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it better my second watch, and it does leave me hopeful for next season with some of the plot points that we've got laid out, and still happy with what we got this season. So that's kind of where I landed.
Nice.
Fair enough. Harley, look at you. Holy.
I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I don't know. Apparently, I was quite able to suspend disbelief. We'll get into this. I quite enjoyed this episode, so I gave it 9 supercharged supermen. And I am with you, Jeff, on where I do feel like there were things that could have been handled a little bit differently. And I am definitely very hopeful for next season, so I'm totally with you there. But I was kind of impressed, personally. I liked how they ended the Allie storyline, and I liked kind of like what they did with it, how they brought it all together. And I felt like we got a few things that made a little bit more sense because, I mean, by comic book standards, and I'll explain what I mean continually throughout this episode, but I had no idea how they were going to, quote, believably, and I will say believably by comic book standards, find someone, or I guess someone's powerful enough to really stop Allie from merging the worlds. And so that is what I felt like was well done, like throughout the episode from my standpoint. So I'm feeling I'll be defending that standpoint, but that's okay. I liked that we got a better explanation for the phasing between the two worlds as they were starting to merge into one. And I liked that occurred throughout the whole episode. So we really kind of got the feel for it. It kind of amped up the stakes a little bit. So I like that quite a bit. And I was happier with the explanation of that. And then I was extremely happy that they finally told Chrissy. I've been wanting that for like 2 seasons. So it's a small point, but I was very happy. So that I thought was pretty cool. And the scene with her and Clark at the end where she's just staring at them while they're dancing was just priceless. Loved that.
It's funny.
So funny. He's like, we got to work on that. Oh, so funny. Where I was disappointed was definitely the Diggle reveal. I thought he was going to kick off like the next season arc, and when I saw he shows up and there's still 5 minutes left, I was like, ooh, this is about to get good. Like, this is going to get juicy. They're going to dig into some things, and they're going to leave us on like maybe a little bit of a cliffhanger. And so when there was only like, I don't know, like a minute and a half of them, maybe not even that, in the diner, and they're explaining something about like John Henry that went straight over my head, I was like, what? And so I didn't like how his reveal was. I was not expecting that to go that way. I didn't really understand it, so y'all can explain that to me later. But other than that, and a few other things that I'm sure we'll get into, I thought it was a good finale. I thought it closed out the season well. I was pretty happy with it.
You're definitely flying high. You got like an ear-to-ear grin tonight, Harley. So I don't know what's gotten into you, but
cold medicine.
Cold medicine. That's right. That's what you're saying off air. Yeah. Well, I believe I'm wearing my yellow suit for most of this episode, most of tonight. So be warned, everybody. I'm only rating this one a 7, and that is 7 times I thought the Flash Riders took over this show. What a mess. Both Superman and the Flash came out of the finale gates lame. And if they were to be treated like racehorses, they'd be put down with shotguns. What a horrible week for finales. Neither show could live up to what was... Oh, wait a second. Their seasons really had nothing going on of any gripping content, and that's why we're left with pretty subpar finales. Because trying to be all epic and over the top to make up for a lackluster season just isn't going to get you any brownie points from me. It's just too much, too late, and too bad. So what does Superman do here besides confuse the heck out of us without explaining a damn thing that was happening on screen? Just as I predicted last week and the week before, they kind of took the Stargirl route and what is apparently this show's route as well, and that is spend an entire season building things up only to run out of time and try to cram it all in into one episode. And then, like X-Force said, pretty much wrap the story in half the episode, because I looked at the timestamp and it's actually almost dead half. X-Force. It was all over. The battle with Allie and everything was done at 23 minutes. And then the rest of the episode was spent with just their CW drama and trying to tie it off with a pretty little bow for all of us to smile at. I mean, choke at. But 23 minutes. You wrapped up an entire season storyline in 23 minutes. And I watched it without commercial breaks, so 23 minutes, and there was still another 21 minutes left or something like that of the episode. I watched both finales twice, and both got worse on the second viewing for me. There were some really cool effects moments in this one, and this is where I'm giving it high props. There were some cool moments. The visuals were absolutely spectacular, and that brings the points way up for me. There was some really neat moments for Superman itself. We're going to talk about all the good stuff. That was the best part. For me, the dialogue in this episode was gaggingly awful, and I'm honestly, I got so tired real fast of almost every single line by every single character being something about, I have to be with my family, go be with your family, go talk to your family. Like, oh my God, I'm done with it. Like, I didn't care. I didn't want to hear that anymore. It was like an overused line that probably was said at least a dozen times. And just for comparison, since that's this feeling that this week, everybody's comparing the two finales, just for fun, I just finished going through season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with my ladies here in the house, and it's off the charts better than anything that these shows did. I really hope talking about this finale brings me a little more joy from you guys, because you're obviously a lot higher in the episode, but I'm severely underwhelmed on this one, and a 7 might even be too kind.
Wow. Okay. We're honest here, so yeah.
I always am, guys.
Yeah.
I always am. Let's get into the talking points and see what we come up with.
All right. So we're gonna kind of talk about the Cushings, Smallville, and kind of Lois on the inverse side. So at the start of it, we've got Chrissy making a video and sharing it with the world about the truth of the merger with the permission of the DOD. And I kind of liked that, getting to see, how it was looking around the world and different things like that. So, I kind of liked her bringing out and bringing the truth to the world.
Yeah, see, and this already put a sour taste in my mouth, because Chrissy has not been much a part of the season at all. And usually the opening moments of Superman and Lois, they usually give us this big dramatic punch, and then we get the great logo with the great sound effect, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, I'm ready for this episode. And this to me was just flat. It was just dull and flat, because there was no weight to it. Where's Chrissy been this whole time? Now you have her opening the finale of this season. I was just like, Well, it meant nothing to me, because where has she been? They're like, it's just, yeah. Anyway.
No, see, I disagree. I actually liked the opening, because I felt like it set up this kind of like dire world's ending feeling that they had going on. Because I mean, her whole thing has been that she wants to bring like her truth to the world, and like the truth to the world, responsible journalism and all of that. And so I feel like that's exactly what she did. And like, I liked that they actually started it with her video, for that reason, because she was bringing her truth like to the people. And I felt like it set the stage for the whole episode, where it had more of like a world's end kind of feel for me.
I would have preferred Lois doing this big TV reveal thing, though. She's the world-renowned reporter. Nobody knows Chrissy.
Well, they do now.
But, yeah, it is Chris. It is Chrissy's place. Yeah. I mean, I guess they're sort of 50-50 at this point. But she couldn't get a hold of Lois. Yeah, you saw her kept calling, and she wasn't answering.
Yeah. She was in the inverse world.
Yeah, well, so she took matters into her own hands. Is kind of how I took that.
I guess I'm just looking at it from a reporter. Like, this was a global news event that was happening. Why is this tiny little girl in Smallville getting this scoop? Like, that just didn't make sense. This is a Lois type of, or someone on the same level of reporting as Lois. Chrissy is a nobody on the global scale. That's why it fell flat to me. It's just like, who's going to listen to this girl? Who cares? Nobody knows who she is.
Well, she's got the scoop from the DOD, so yeah.
But
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. It just started wrong for me. I was just.
All right.
Chrissy we'll talk about her later, because I do have a couple nice things I wanted to say about her later, so don't worry.
So Lana and the girls are searching for Kyle, and they really find Smallville in chaos. People are starting to flip over to the inverse world, and things are getting really dangerous with, cars crashing and things like that, and it really shows kind of how close to the merger we're getting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this was another thing that I felt like set the stage pretty well. And the other thing, though, this is one of the points that did kind of like bother me a little bit. Because we, the audience, right, we've already figured out where Kyle went. We figured out that he's gone to the inverse world, and that like there's clearly something going on. Like, we can see all the different things happening, right? And I thought it was kind of like an odd plot point to have Lana and the girls kind of like running them around town, blatantly ignoring like her own advice, which was to go home and stay with your family. And so that point did kind of bother me a little bit. And I mean, we know the only reason is because they want them to be out and about in the square when Kyle reappears, so they can have that moment later in the episode. But anyway, so yeah, that part did bother me. But as far as like setting the scene and like showing Smallville in chaos, I liked that. That worked well. That worked well for me, because I feel like that's super real. Like, if you think like the whole world is ending, and it would be like mass panic and hysteria, I feel like.
Yeah, and they should have showed more than just Smallville. I mean, if the whole world is witnessing this, why didn't we see Metropolis? Why didn't we see other cities? All we ever saw was Smallville. It's like the world doesn't spin around Smallville. Nobody even really cares about Smallville. It was just.
But our show
strange.
is set in Smallville. Just remember that.
I know, but it's a global event. Show more than just one tiny little farming community, because there's lots going on. I mean, Metropolis would have been cool. We've seen a lot of Metropolis on the show, so let's go there for a moment. But anyway, I am with you. Like, I did find it weird that everyone's running around like crazy people, because not a single person listened to her advice. But that's also humans. Our curiosity gets the best of us. I mean, wouldn't the three of us all be outside looking at what's happening? I know I would be. I'd be going, whoa, what is that? I'm not staying inside, hiding in the basement.
I don't know. I don't know that I'd be like running around town. Maybe I'd be.
No, not running around town. I'd be outside watching. I'm same thing if a tornado comes. I wouldn't be hiding. I'd be like, I want to catch a glimpse. Like, what's it look like?
You and I are very different people.
Me.
Armageddon's coming. I am hiding.
Armageddon, yeah. Sure. But nah, I need to see. I just want to watch. But what it reminded me of is, you guys ever see that show Flash Forward? It was the first show that came out after Lost ended that was supposed to have the same type of Lost vibe.
I never
watched that Flash Forward. Basic storyline that somebody in the world, some scientist figured out how to pause the world for 10 minutes or something like that. They completely stopped time for 10 minutes. Everyone was in frozen animation, and when they came back, like planes were falling out of the sky, cars were crashing because people disappeared and then came back and whatever. So it just completely, this whole opening sequence reminded me exactly of the season premiere of that show, because from there they were trying to figure out, well, what the hell happened? Where did that 10 minutes of time go, and why are planes dropping out of the sky? It's because pilots disappeared. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it was almost very similar. So it's a neat effect. It is pretty cool, because when you think about it, for people to just suddenly disappear, if you think of it on a global scale, how much damage that would cost. Like, just think of New York City, when you got millions of cars on the road and all of a sudden half of the people disappear from them. That's a scary thought. Right?
Yeah.
Or planes in the sky or whatever. Like, it's freaky. So
yeah, and I do feel like they did a good job of kind of like showing some of that with like the planes crashing and cars crashing like empty, no one in them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
So
it's scary.
So the Kents and Natalie cross over, and they notice things from their world are there too. So that it's not just that they flipped over, it's the merger going on because they're seeing stuff from their reality over there. So it was a nice way to show that things are getting closer in the merger. And then that's when Tal-Rho shows up and, kind of offering his help, and everybody but Lois flips back over.
And that was the moment we totally predicted. Last week we were like, Tal-Rho has to show up. He has to have his moment, where there's going to be a redemption arc moment to complete his storyline, or he's going to take advantage of it. He showed up, so that was cool. But that digital effect still isn't working for me. I don't like it. It just is not organic enough. It feels weird as the visual way they're representing the worlds merging. It's off-putting. But I did like that people were coming and going, because that at least lent some danger to what's going on. I don't know if we can call it danger, because people aren't really getting hurt. They're just, either reappearing or disappearing from one world to the next. And nobody's getting hurt. But it's more like transportation or whatever. They're transporting back and forth, for a lack of better explanation. So I like that. I mean, that was just cool. People blipping in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that digital effect, that glitchy effect. I really liked that. That actually worked really well for me. But, I mean, I guess you can say people aren't getting hurt, but you know that there are pilots that disappeared and then appeared in the sky somewhere. So, I don't know. Take that for what you will. Because you see a lot of planes crashing. So if you were in the plane,
and then you start falling, and then you flip back, you're not going to be in the plane anymore because you're going to be Yeah.
Yeah. So
I didn't even think of
it. Or like the
that.
dude whose car kept going and he was blipped out, but he was moving at the same speed as his car. Because Sam even alludes to that later. He's like, "Oh, I'm glad I got out of my car because I disappeared, but my Jeep didn't," or something like that. I was like,
So they just didn't show it, I guess.
No, they didn't.
Isn't this the point too when Bizarro Lois just shows up though? And like she just stands there, like she shows up and she just I think she had one word and then she stood there for the rest of
that was just weird.
That was a point for me where I was like, why bother? There has to be more on the cutting room floor, because you're right, she's just there, she's just in the background. We know she can't understand anything, but she's just there watching on, and like, this was weird.
Looking sad.
We could have done without this. Yeah. Like, entirely. Didn't need this at all.
We didn't see, like, Bizarro Sam. And we didn't see, like, any of the other folks, but, like...
Jordan. No. Yeah.
So...
Yeah, we still haven't seen Bizarro Jordan. Yeah, you're right.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, I like her look, though. She looks cool as Bizarro. I actually prefer that look. It looks good on her.
She looks more like Margot Kidder in that way, just the way of her hair and that kind of stuff. So,
I wonder if that was intentional.
Probably.
Huh.
So
maybe.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's a point I could have done without. I was like, wait, but why? Like this literally added nothing.
Yeah.
So true.
Oh man. But okay, so these are the scenes where I liked, and I do like that effect. I don't know, it worked well for me. So I felt like we got answers here, because I was very confused from last week, because they didn't make it clear that they were like flipping back and forth. It just looked like items were coming over and like replacing items for our world. And I was like, well, but if they're supposed to be merging, like, how does that make sense? And so
we totally questioned that.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's why I liked how they explained it this week and how they showed it this week with the glitching and the moving back and forth. It was that everything is kind of just switching places as the two worlds are like merging together, because they're essentially like phasing in and out of each other's like existence and reality. And so they're kind of just like moving back and forth between like the two dimensions or the two planes of existence, or however like you want to look at that to make it work. And so to me, that actually like made it be a lot more believable. Like I could see like from like a weird like quantum mechanical entanglement kind of perspective how like things would be like phasing uncontrollably until eventually they're like just everything is just so close that you just kind of eventually things just kind of go together and become whatever together meant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, at least I agree with you. At least they showed both worlds having items appear from the other side this time, because that's what they did. And I thought last week you said you didn't like the digital effect either. You said that was kind of weird, a weird way to show it. I thought we were all saying that was.
Well, it was because of the way they were like
week.
showing it then. To me, it wasn't like it wasn't clear that items were moving back and forth. It looked like the inverse world was just replacing our world. And so that's why I was questioning how they did that and why they chose that effect, because I was like, if they're supposed to be merging, this doesn't make sense the way that they presented it last week. But then I felt like they explained it better this week, and I was like, okay, now I get why it's like glitchy. And this week it was more glitchy, whereas like last week things were just being replaced back and like just all of a sudden there was a square mug. Kyle was gone. Like they didn't show that effect as much. And so I don't think I was questioning necessarily the effect per se, but what was actually happening. So like all of a sudden the mugs became square. Like, you know what I mean? Kyle was gone. Like those kinds of things. That's what I was questioning.
Yeah. I don't know. Just the digital glitchiness just didn't work for me. But like I said, I like both worlds exchanging items this time around. But what it doesn't do is it makes sense when you really think about it. If the worlds are merging together, why would items replace each other? Shouldn't they start to be combining, like gelling, merging together, hence the word merge, and be all messed up or something? You know, like when a car, if a car changes to a truck, wouldn't it be like the front end of the car and the back end of the truck, because now they're combined as one instead of completely replacing each other? The worlds are merging. Therefore, everything should be melding together, and we should have like cows mixed with horses, and you know, like it should be really, really messed up, not just replacing things. So that's why this whole thing just isn't making a lot of sense to me. They're merging, they're not replacing each other, they're becoming one. So things should have been actually pretty gruesome and pretty really weird looking, like completely, you know, sci-fi horror movie kind of vibe, because they're becoming together.
Yeah, I felt like that maybe like would have come next, that like we were at like that stage just before like it started to get to that point, because I think what they were just trying to show is as things were coming together, because that's how John Henry and Natalie explained it last week, like their sun was starting to phase in, but it was only at like 3% brightness or like whatever it was, and as the worlds were getting closer and more stuff was like coming in and out of like our world, and our stuff was coming in and out of theirs, like it was all kind of like becoming stronger and stronger until like eventually it's kind of like, you know, like you've got like two waves, and then all of a sudden eventually they're kind of like interfering with one another, and then all of a sudden they'll just kind of like be like one. I feel like we were shy of like the one part where, like you said, everything would just merge together and we would get parasitic versions of everything, I guess.
Yeah, but there was that one shot near the end of the episode where the round Earth was completely inside the square Earth. Like, they were completely inside each other. Like, it was pretty much done. So I think by that point, things should have been long done by then. I mean, I'm guessing budget and effects and all that kind of stuff. They just couldn't. This didn't work for me. It just didn't work. That they weren't merging at all. They were being replaced, and that's why I was like, that took me out of it. It's just not the effect that I'm imagining when you're merging something together.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was just like the way they explained it with like two dimensions being separate and trying to like come together. So like I'm thinking about it from like a different way than you are. I'm not thinking about things like trying to, you know, take these two things and like literally push them together. I'm thinking more of like dimensionally things are fading like in and out until all of a sudden everything stabilizes and it just becomes one.
Mm-hmm.
And then what does it look like though? Like that?
Well, but
to me should have some.
You know, what we've got to go off of is Allie, because she was not this deformed thing that like two things melting into each other. They became intertwined, but yet they were, with enough power that we see, you know, able to be separated. So I think that was our cue of how it was going to look, is, you know, they were together, but there was still some phase variance there. It wasn't like a melting into each other. It was...
it's like interferometry. You've got like two waves kind of like off of one another, and then all of a sudden they come in sync. The merging is when the waves like come in sync, but we didn't like quite get to that point. So we were still in the interfering phase. That's why things were blipping in and out of our reality. Yeah, that's kind of how
the Allie explanation. That makes a little more sense. But she I mean, she was pretty much complete, but then we also found out that neither side was in control. Like neither side was themselves. When they merged together, it was like a new third person.
Yeah.
Combined of the two.
Yeah.
So just imagine, like, okay, so a toaster from that Earth mixed with a toaster from this Earth, when it becomes one whole toaster, it no longer is either toaster from either side. It's now a new toaster.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
Yeah, I guess, what would that look like? I think I'm just pulled out of it because the visuals didn't quite match that, and when you saw that final shot where the round Earth was completely inside the square Earth, what we saw on the Earths didn't show that much progress yet, or how far forward. Like, everything should have been merged. Everything should have, like, why didn't we see any people merge? Why didn't we see anything completed? Because it should have been at that point. It was pretty much done before Superman did his thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we can maybe debate. There's points about all of this stuff later.
We might get that to it,
we can debate more about it later.
Yeah. All right. So Lois is basically looking for her family, and that's when Sam shows up, like we talked about, and they go to the one person that they know on that Earth who is not interested in merging, and that's Inverse Chrissy. And I thought this was a neat effect, although it got really hand-wavy at the end because it was flipping really fast back and forth. So she's using a digital recorder to flip the voices so that they could understand each other. But, like, there at the end, it was, like, instantaneous back and forth. I was like, okay, whatever. I get the plot point. But, like, it was a cool idea. Okay, I'm going to take the audio, I'm going to flip it back so the other person can understand. But by the end, it was, like, instantaneous.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool and pretty clever, and I was wondering if maybe it was like something like a gadget that was like slightly more advanced, that like once they started it, then it kind of like worked both ways, kind of like a translator kind of works, like you speak into it
Star
and
Trek.
it just spits out the other language, and then same thing, like retranslates back.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I was able to like hand wave that away. I thought it was pretty funny that they had like a couple of back and forths, and all of a sudden she disappears, and then it completely broke. So I was like, well, guess they won't really need that again.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe it was just like a regular digital recorder. But I was thinking it was maybe something like a little bit more advanced, but perhaps not. Maybe that's just me giving them too much credit.
That's what I thought. I thought it was completely an advanced gadget, like that the DoD gave to her or something. But to me, it's like, why does Chrissy even have that? Because there's absolutely no reason for her to have a gadget that flips voices. Nothing we've seen any backstory for. Like, this Chrissy on that Earth has not dealt with any backward-speaking people for her to have needed this gadget. So why does she even have it? Like, it's just completely plot device thrown in there for that moment. And like, yes, the tech is really, really cool. It's fun. It's totally the Star Trek Universal Translator. But why does she have it? There's no reason for that.
Here's the thing. If you think about it, it could have been really low-tech and been a audio tape that you can play in reverse, like, so if it's an audio tape, then you're just playing it backwards over those reels. So I don't know.
That's
Which
true.
then calls into your complaint that it was happening too quickly.
Yeah.
That's true.
But
yeah.
anyway, whatever. It's just a fun little thing. I mean, it made for a fun scene between them. It's just I just didn't buy that she had it for, like, why? But anyway.
So after they both flip over, Lois again is left alone, and she's out there with everybody who is ready to merge, and there's Kyle. And I don't know. He's stuck over there. He's separated from his family. He thinks it's karma for what he did, and she comforts him, and he immediately flips over to reunite with his family. And again, this was, I think, too rushed. So
yeah, and that's what I mean. This is where I was starting again, because they're already, by this point, they've already used that line, "Be with my family," probably 5 or 6 times already, and we're what, 10 minutes into the episode. It's just too much for me already. Like, the writing for that, I felt bad for the actor playing Kyle. I mean, it was uncomfortable for me to watch him struggle through acting that part out to make it believable, because it just came off as really cheesy. And it just, like, I think he himself said it 3 times. Got to be with my family. Need to be with my family. Like, can you guys not write something a little bit more creative here? Like, this is really, really lazy writing. And then it was starting to bother me already at this point.
Yeah. I mean, at least we got to see him, because I was like, Lois has to find Kyle at some point. So,
yeah.
Because we all know he's got to be there. So,
Yeah. And then...
Yeah.
Then we end up
feel bad for
with Lois being the only person left in inverse Smallville. Like, she's the only person there. Everybody else is flipped over. Oh.
Yeah, which is kind of strange. But
Yeah.
we don't... What other characters do we have? We don't have any other characters to show us, really.
Yeah.
no.
That was it.
Yeah, no. I'm not sure why they left her alone over there and kind of like made that decision, other than just to get her out of the way, because she would probably be the one trying to talk sense into Clark and trying to stop him from ultimately like doing what he did. But
Yeah, probably.
it's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, let's talk about the Irons family. And this was interesting because Natalie is getting bits and pieces of audio from her dad through the tablet. And what she's getting is bring the pod into the void. And so she suits up and has the pod following her into the void.
See, now this parts of their story was really cool, and this was one of them. I mean, bringing the pod to him, and in my mind, I'm picturing, okay, what she got out of the message is he's out of power, he's floating out there in the nothing zone, she needs to go rescue him. So she's bringing the pod to him so he can get in and be brought back safely, because he's going to run out of power, he's going to run out of oxygen, he can't get back there. So I thought, this is cool. And at this point, I'm thinking, you know, like, his suit is just about dead, so this is the only way that he can survive the trip back. All really cool stuff. I like this part, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. Like, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to add other than like what you just said, but yeah, I liked these scenes a lot. I thought it was nice. Like, I just like the two of them like together. I think they have really good chemistry, and so I just enjoyed them a lot. So and I'm with you. Like, I was totally on board. Like, I was like, oh, okay, Natalie's got the plan. She's got it figured out. She's going to bring him back. Like, that's the whole deal. So I was thrown for a loop when that wasn't exactly the plan.
Yeah, he's kind of recording his final message to her, and she shows up, but he wanted the pod filled with XK so they could blow up the portal. She's like, I didn't get that.
Yeah.
Didn't get that part. Sorry.
Yeah. So they figure out that if they transfer all of their power over to the pod, then it can blow up. They said the portal, but it's really disrupting the merger again. I don't, you know, what they said and what happened didn't kind of line up there.
I think we'll talk a bit about that a little more.
Yeah, we will.
They did say blow up the portal, but again, this part I thought was a very believable plot point because it makes sense. I mean, they needed something powerful enough to close the portal, because if they close the portal, then there's no more traveling between the two worlds, and I guess they're thinking close the portal, Allie's stuck in the negative zone with them. They basically knew they were sacrificing themselves. Shut the portal off, she's stuck in there because as far as they knew, she flew through the portal to get there, so close it down, she's stuck, they're stuck, both worlds can't combine. It's still, at this point in time, it's a good idea. It's making sense, you know, sciencey, comic book science way. It makes sense to me here.
Yeah. No, I mean, I thought it was a good plan. Yeah, I watched this part back a little bit because it does get a little confusing, but they're very clear when they do say that their plan is to blow up the portal. And then they do some interesting things with it visually that we can kind of dig into a little bit later and see if we can maybe figure out what was really happening.
Yeah, I got more out of that on the second watch, but we'll get down to that.
Yeah, but yeah, no, as that was definitely their intent, or at least what they thought they were doing. Now, whether or not that's what they actually did, I guess maybe another story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about more about this later because I think it's somebody's favorite scene. But they do get to say their goodbyes to each other, and I like that. But they do end up getting saved by Superman, who flies them back to the farm.
And I think I come back to that later, but at this point in the notes, I was like, is that really what happened? Because I couldn't tell. And I went back and rewatched it while I was editing our favorite scenes out. And I watched it over and over and over again, frame by frame, to really see what was happening there. Because initially, when I was just watching it on the big screen, I had no idea how they got back. I thought they were pretty much goners. It looked to me like they flew themselves back after what we just saw. And I thought, how is that happening? Their suits are dead. They have no power left. So I was completely confused and completely taken out of the moment. And I know we'll come back to it later, but you are right. It happens so quick. This part of the episode, things were moving really quickly.
Yeah.
And Superman is there, and he does fly them back, but he's like a ball of flame because he's moving so fast and he's super. Yeah. So it just looks like an orange light with them as he drops them off, and that's why I'm like, I thought it was their jetpacks, like power, their rocket boosters, and that's why I'm like, how? But you're right.
Yeah, it was weird because I watched it the first time on my TV, the second time on my computer monitor here, and I was able to get more detail. But anyway, so
yeah, well,
and I've got a 10-foot wide movie screen. You think I'd have the most detail, and I still missed it.
Well, it's tough. Everything was moving really fast, and it was kind of hard to see some of what was going on. But part of it was Allie. She also kind of stopped what she was doing to stop them. Because she was like, no, you're not going to disrupt me again. So I think there's kind of something to all of that. So
I think we'll touch on it again when we start talking about what's going on.
So the next section is kind of the bulk of things, and I called it the Kents and Tal-Rho. So Tal-Rho tries to take on Allie out in space, but again, she was too much for him. She starts to drain him, and we do get Jordan step up and knock her out of the way and save Tal from crashing. So that was really cool to see him a little more steady. And again, like I talked about last week, when he's out of his head and just in the moment and not thinking about it, he's able to do stuff. Whereas if he dwells on it, he's gets in his own way. So that was kind of cool to see him step up and save his uncle.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought this was a really cool scene. I loved seeing Jordan kind of go to the rescue, and especially because Allie, she didn't see it coming. And I thought it was just a really smart move for him to shove her away, kind of run into her. And then he was able to kind of speed away and rescue his uncle because she couldn't absorb any energy. She couldn't re-engage with him and, kind of then absorb his life force or whatever it is that she does. Although for a second there, I did think he was going to try and do more and go after her as as we're watching her just fly away into the void for a little bit. But then he quickly goes after his uncle. So I was like, okay, good. Yes. Okay. Don't do that. Too early. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Smart Jordan. Now, I liked that Tal-Rho was stepping up to be like his brother after he just gave that, you've inspired me to be better. But he wasn't that smart about it because Clark just told him exactly what to watch out for, and he knows that she beat Superman by draining his energy. And what does he do? He just flies up there and shoots his eye beams at her. Pretty predictable for Allie, because she easily counters it, which he should have known would happen. And to me, it was just kind of a dumb move for him. He just flies up there and shoots his eye beams, and come on, man, did you not listen or learn anything? She's going to easily take you out. If Superman can't even get an attack in on her, what is that going to do? So I was a little bit disappointed in him there. Maybe he was just being a little too cocky. I don't know. But I agree with you about Jordan getting to be a hero because that part was really cool. And I just have a question. Did we miss something that he suddenly is in full control of his powers and full control of flying ability? Because the last time we saw, he was too scared to fly because he doesn't know how to land or how to control himself. So there was a bit of a jump here, and suddenly he is in full control and can fly to outer space because we've only, I was, again, like I picked on Natalie last week. I'm like, what? He just flies into space and doesn't freak out, because we only known Jordan to be kind of a wuss. Like, he's a little bit of a wuss in everything. So I'm a bit confused there. I don't know. Before I finish my point, thoughts on that? Like,
I think
Superboy?
like I said, when he is not in his own head, he is, he's focused on saving a family member. He's intense. But you saw that even in the midst of that, when he didn't really land, he crashed, and Tal had to actually help him. Like, he was crashing. Like, he got Tal, but like he was crashing, and Tal kind of helped him with his landing, because he was really crashing. So once again, I think he is like, if he's not thinking about it, if he's just in the midst, I've got to save my family, he's better about it. But he is just, he's powering through. He's got no finesse there. He hasn't had all the training, so he's just like going wild after it. So, yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. It's more on instinct, so that's a good way to... So the other thing I wanted to say is I was a little bit confused in the scene, which I also had to watch again frame by frame, because it looked like he shoved Allie away, and in the same moment it sent Tal flying, or he threw Tal. I had no idea, because the body that was flipping through space I thought was Tal-Rho, because it seemed like Jordan didn't know where he went, and then all of a sudden the next scene is Tal-Rho is falling through the Earth's atmosphere, and I got confused. I said, wait a second, I thought he just shoved him. I thought it was Tal-Rho that he shoved out of the way and not Allie at first, so I had to watch that one a couple times to kind of get clarity on what actually happened.
Yeah, no, he definitely shoved Allie away. And I think because Tal was so weak, because Allie was draining him, that he just falls.
Yeah.
So then Jordan's like, because Jordan's like expecting him to, I think, be floating there, and when he's not, he's like, where did he go? And then he realizes what's happening, and so he leaves.
Yeah. Okay, but they are in space. They're not in the Earth's atmosphere at that point, so he should not have fallen. That's not... Physics doesn't work like that in space. You shouldn't fall straight down.
No, probably not.
Yeah,
but
maybe they're in the very upper atmosphere. I don't know. Who knows?
That's possible.
Yeah, right on the
cusp. Yeah.
Well,
so
there's a lot of these sciencey things I thought you were going to rip apart, Holly, because you're the one that hates when space science isn't done properly, and this is just one
but
point.
This isn't space science. This is just them doing random. I don't know. I mean, if you want to think about it that way, like when Jordan shoves her, I mean, I don't know, that energy's got to go somewhere, because she was the only thing like holding on to Tal-Rho. So maybe the shove, which then like severs the energy, gave enough of a kickback that it tilted him close enough into Earth's atmosphere that gravity picked up. I don't know. Or just comic book.
Fine, explain it away like that.
Or just comic book convenience as usual. Because, they never get space stuff right.
Yeah.
I'm more critical of space stuff when it's a legit sci-fi movie, or when they're trying to be sci-fi. I would get critical of it in Legends, because they were in spaceships and trying to like be astronauts, kind of like without being astronauts. It was more about at that point it was more about the space travel and the time travel, and less about like the superheroes. Whereas like here, you've got 3 folks floating around in space, which one is only like half Kryptonian. Why he can even go to space like immediately comes into question. So like I just stopped thinking about it after that and just watched the scene.
Well, and that's my thinking. Critical thinking comes in the second watch. The first watch I watch just for hopefully sheer enjoyment. I don't have my notebook. I don't have nothing. I just watch. And the second time is when I sit down with my notes and I start picking it apart. And these are the things that come up.
So that's all I got.
So Clark says he is the only one that can stop Allie, and he evidently heard better than we did, because he heard his mom tell him that, like, he, throw him into the sun to recharge, but he has to be, actually thrown in. So, I was like, okay, he's got better hearing than we do, because we didn't get anything but the glitches. So.
Yeah, I was going to say that scene was impossible to make out anything she said, but I mean, I guess this is the only thing that makes sense to recharge him, because I guess if you think about it, I mean, how do you really recharge Superman if you have to do it like super quick? I don't know. I have literally no idea. So that's why I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. I have no clue. So this is where I just let comic book, whatever glossiness, just take it over. Yes, Superman needs sun to be supercharged or recharged or whatever. So sure, toss him into the middle of it. That totally makes sense. That'll totally just supercharge him. Yeah, sure. Why not? I got nothing. I got nothing.
Well, he does explain. He does say,
looks cool.
as he's explaining it to them, he does say, "I'm pretty sure," and they're like, "You're pretty sure?" He goes, "Yeah." Like he got parts of it, so he's actually making an educated, risky guess. Yeah. He really didn't know, but you know, but that's what we predicted last week. I said, you gotta take him to the sun. That's the only way. You gotta charge him. We totally pulled that point out last week.
So Tal does that, and they have a neat, touching conversation before Tal throws him in, and I like that he doesn't come out and say it, but Clark says it. I love you too. So, and I like how he acknowledges him as like the hero that the Earth needs. So I like that little conversation there. So.
It was pretty good, and I thought one of you guys was going to pick that as a favorite scene.
That was a toss-up. I picked the other scene that that they have, but
but it's a cool little moment between the two of them. But I think I'll come up with that in just a moment here.
So he gets tossed in, and it's burning him up. And here he remembers his family, the hope and the love that he has for him. And there's a breakthrough, and the sun starts to supercharge him, and he starts healing. And this was some interesting and cool special effects that I thought were cool here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the comic book hand-wavy science, like I said, I got absolutely nothing, but it was very cool to see him all charged up and, like, extra superpowered. I did enjoy this bit immensely.
Well, and this part is not this really has nothing to do with science. This is superhero lore. This is Superman lore that's coming to play here.
Exactly.
Now, this for me was the best scene in the entire episode. It's my favorite by far, but I can't use it as a favorite scene because it's just sound effects. But let me clarify. The part with him being in the sun and supercharging up, that was cool. Like, super cool. Or I should say super hot. But I'm shocked. This is the other point I want to bring up. That you're not ranting about this, because Cal and Tal talking to each other while they're in space is impossible. There's no sound in space.
I told you, I've given up.
How can they just talk to each other and hear each other? It's impossible. So that was hugely disappointing to me to see them just floating there talking. Not to mention the sun is like burning in their face. Like they're what, a mile from it maybe. I mean, their eyes must be some kind of super protected. Even Clark's, even though when he's at a really weakened state, because staring into the sun from a few miles away and nothing happens, I mean, you know how it hurts our eyes when we look at the sun from here, and we're billions of miles away. So I can't imagine what it's like for them. So I'm just thinking, okay, Clark must have healed and rested enough to have at least some of his invulnerability back, because he wouldn't have survived being thrown in the sun, let alone survive floating in space and whatever, because we don't know. We have no idea if they're breathing, if they're holding their breath. They've never really explained.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. But even still, he's right at the sun's edge in a weakened state. So he must have gotten something back. Because I'm just looking at him, I'm like, Clark has no powers yet. And how is he surviving in space without any powers? So this stuff is cool and visually appealing and amazing as it was. This is where it was a little too over the top for me. But the talking in space and all that kind of stuff, that really bugged me. That's why I'm surprised it didn't bug you, Harley, because that kind of stuff doesn't usually get to me too much, but this was just like, no, you can't talk to each other in space. You just can't.
It's not the first time they're all talking to each other in space. I've given up, I'm telling you.
It's just weird. But then he's in it. He's in the sun, and this one is when it really got cool for me. He's in there, and you can see, like you said, X-Force, he's melting at first, but then his healing starts to kick in because he's got enough protection that he can survive I mean, obviously he has to, because how hot does the sun burn? How many millions of degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius? Like
A lot.
He obviously has something that he can survive it. So his healing has already kicked in. He's supercharging up. And all of that, to me, was freaking amazing to witness. I mean, the S on his chest was just glowing. There's solar energy coursing through him. I mean, it was awesome. And that's why this was my favorite scene. Despite its beginnings, I was like, nope, nope, nope. It then became the coolest thing of the episode.
Well, here's where there's a semi-explainer and where I should have gotten that we're not in the same reality as Supergirl. Because in Supergirl's reality, she had to have a spacesuit when she was in space.
That makes no sense.
But in the in the Superman lore,
Why not? You're just literally complaining about. Anyways,
so
No, I mean, because every other super member of the family has not needed one. So why? I've never seen Supergirl needing a suit. That part doesn't make sense with what they've done already.
in the Arrowverse they do, but in this one they don't, because they actually have a comic book power of they've got this field that surrounds them that's in the comics that protects them, and they can extend that field around others. So that is what keeps, like when he's flying with somebody, from them being their face to being sheared off when he's going fast.
yes.
So in this reality, they've got that. So that enables them to be in space. I don't know about the breathing, but there is a comic book power, and I don't know about the talking. So that tells me that this reality is different than Supergirl's, because she had to have a suit when she was in space. So I should have kind of guessed that. But now the talking, I don't know. And did he heal up enough and able to survive long enough because Tal wasn't there anymore? I don't know. It's comic booky, but I know that they, in this reality, in the comic books, they have a field around them that they can survive in space and not like need air. So
Yeah, which means they probably have like stuff trapped in their little bubble, which would explain how they can talk to one another.
yeah,
That's in that particular instance.
yeah,
They've got radio comms in their ears that we've never seen.
Yeah, there you go.
yeah. There you go.
Still ended up being the coolest scene ever. I mean, that the visual effects of him melting and healing and getting supercharged, and when he flies out of the sun later and he just bursts out from it.
Oh,
and he's
yeah.
he's like this flaming super. He's like the Human Torch and Superman at the same time.
And the
It's just-
lines on his suit, the solar energy, it was just really cool effect. So
It was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
That part alone gets it high ranking points because he was awesome.
It was. I agree.
That's the comic book stuff I love.
yeah,
It was very cool.
But yeah. Anyway, I think my very final point of this whole talk I'll explain why I'm off on some of this stuff. Like you're saying, it's comic book science, and I'm asking for a bit of reality within the comic book science because the show has been so good at doing that so far. So we'll come back around to that idea.
All right. So back on Earth, Sam arrives and he kind of breaks up the bickering boys, and he tells them to have hope, and he explains to us and to them the show's place in the Arrowverse, which is basically this. He says that he's seen glimpses of other worlds and leagues of superheroes, but here there's only one, and that's Superman. And we know that we're not on Earth Prime, and per an interview with the creator, a different one, he kind of goes into the fact that there are other heroes on this Earth, but Superman is the only superhero. And he in that interview, he says there was a version of Green Arrow who also died. So that's who Dig was working with. So Dig was working with the Green Arrow. So kind of going off of that, there probably was a whole version of Arrow's heroes, because most of them weren't powered. So there are non-powered heroes on this Earth, but there aren't superheroes. So there's no Flash, there's no meta, people like that. So In this universe, there's no people like that.
I had a sneaking suspicion this was the route they were going, because it's literally the only one that makes sense anymore. They've ignored literally everything about the Arrowverse, and now we talked about this already, but this is where I said we know why those scenes with Kara's picture or any mentions during season 1 were all cut, because everybody brought them up. They were very upset about it. Personally, I think this is a smarter move. We know how difficult it is to keep all of these heroes on one Earth interwoven and connected. It's literally impossible, and they just end up ignoring things, and the seasons go by, and you just have like all of these like individual storylines, and you're like, well, you know what? You have like this whole other like league of people that could have come and help you. Like maybe we should have done something about that. But logistically, that's like literally impossible. So I think this was a much smarter move, personally.
Yeah.
Here. You just explained everything that I've been arguing all the time, because I've countered all people crying about that stuff. And you just reiterated what I have been saying for months and months and months and seasons worth, is that it's just, it's too much. You can't keep it connected. Quit asking for it. And I love this explanation. I'm so tired of all the crying for connection. This explains it all away. Yes, it did suck. It took this long, but it's so much better for the story. Now this show is free and they can do what they want. And I love that. And let's be honest, the Arrowverse is all but dead. So why keep yourself attached to a dying scenario, to a dying complete whatever universe? Like, it's dying. They're killing off all the shows. Yep. Why connect yourself to that? Separate yourself for it and move on. And it makes sense and is totally okay by me. Now we can just move on and see what this creative team is going to be able to do. And I actually really liked that it was Sam that gave us the info, because somehow that makes more sense to me. He's part of the DoD. He's got always eyes and ears, always digging up information. And to me, it just felt organic and it felt right. Trying to shoehorn in Diggle to be the one to bring this information, I think would have felt too forced. So this entire explanation was as good as it could get, and I loved it.
Nice. Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Yeah. And my only complaint is I'm just frustrated that this was the creator's vision, and he talked to DC, and DC agreed that this was going to be a separate universe from the start, but they wouldn't let him tell that until this season. I'm just frustrated.
Which is weird.
That doesn't make sense.
I'm just frustrated that because it would have been so much better just to say this is a different reality, so that people aren't complaining and saying why, to say this is a different Earth. I don't know. But there's a lot of things about the DC, higher ups that just don't make a whole lot of sense. But we're not going to get into that in this podcast. But that's my only frustration. I have no problem with it being on its own world. I just frustrated that we didn't know that from the beginning. So anyway, going on.
So yeah, and I feel you. Let's tear into it a little bit, because if you go back to Crisis, we had Superman and Lois there in the fight. So does this explanation that we got mean that those two were not the two we're watching now?
Correct. That's what they've said. Yep.
Hold on a second. Or when Oliver recreated the universe and he made a few new worlds, did he give Superman and Lois their own world, and that's what we're watching? Because if you think about it, everyone's been complaining about this show not mentioning the other shows, but none of the other shows have ever mentioned Superman either. So why wasn't there equal complaints coming from there? It's been very one-sided. But anyway, so explain that for us, X-Force, if you've got the answer.
Yeah, so they have said that the version of Superman and Lois that we saw in the Arrowverse are doppelgangers to these. They're not the same. This Superman is aware of the multiverse, but he was not the one that participated in Crisis. Okay. So that makes sense. They have how different the characters are, and we've said that this Superman and this Lois are different from what we've seen. They're better, especially Harley's brought up how Lois is. So this is a different reality, and it kind of explains it. Now, when Oliver did merge, they got 2 kids instead of 1. So it's more like this universe, but they're still not the same. So they made it clear that this is not the Superman and Lois that we saw in the Arrowverse.
That's
they're
the point I was going to bring up.
It's not Diggle. It's not our reality's Diggle. His hair's different. Like, they brought up an interview with Diggle of, like, they brought him in and, like, he grew out his facial hair, he did his hair different so that he would be different than what we've seen on our side. So,
but he looked that way in his last appearance on The Flash too.
Yeah.
So doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
but go back to the kids thing, because that's the point that's sticking with me. We saw in the Crisis Clark thinking he only has 1 kid, and he gets the phone call from Lois, and she says, "The boys need you," and he's like, "Huh?" The boy, and then he flies off. That's the sticky part for me.
Well, answer me this, because I'm not as much up on my Arrow lore. The Diggles had 1 child. Mm-hmm. Then Flashpoint happened, and then they had a different gendered child.
Yes.
Now they have 2 children.
After Crisis, yeah.
After Crisis.
Same thing.
So they have both. So it,
Yeah.
That's my explanation of Oliver's bringing stuff into balance and bringing, both of the Diggle's kids being there, and now he's made this Superman and Lois a little closer to that version of Superman and Lois. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's
yeah,
crazy. But whatever. We got the explanation now. No more crying about the connection. We can move forward.
Yeah, and I think it's it does open doors. I think there's no other supers on this Earth, but that does not mean they're not aliens from other planets, that have abilities and powers. So we still could see other people with abilities come to this Earth. I'm thinking,
John Jones.
Martian Manhunter and the Green Lanterns and things like that. I think we can still see those things. But once again, the ball is in their court. They don't have to play by the Arrowverse's rules. So.
No, and the characters can be different. That's why this version, why Allie, they essentially called her Parasite, but it's not the Parasite we ever would have thought. But this is their version of Parasite. So they can do what they want with the characters.
Yeah.
And that's cool. It makes it completely unpredictable.
Yeah, definitely. So... After Superman saves Steel Squared, he goes after Allie, and she tries to drain him, and he overpowers her. And I thought it was so cool when he just punches her, and they just split in 2, and then she flies him. He flies him down. To Earth. I mean, that was so cool. That visual effect of them being blown apart by his punch.
Yeah, I loved that too. I thought that was super neat.
Again, the visuals were off the charts for this episode for sure. Yeah, it looked amazing.
So here, let's start. I put in a question here, and it was sort of cleared up by watching the second time. So my thought after the first watch was, if the Irons blew up the portal with their pod, how did Superman save them from the void? So
I got a couple thoughts just on that one first. There's a few questions around that, I think. First we know both Irons had to use the portal to get to Allie. But when Tal-Rho flies to her, he just flies up into space. So what the heck? You need to go through the portal to get to the negative zone where she is, but Tal-Rho doesn't do that. He just went straight up, and so did Jordan when he went to save him. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't make any sense.
Well,
secondly,
pause.
Okay.
That's where the phasing comes in, I think. because as she's bringing things closer and closer together, I think everything is it's come close enough that they're phasing in and out of each other, and I think she's also not in the void at that point.
Yeah.
Which also leads me to believe that neither are John Henry and Natalie. I think everybody's now out in space.
I don't see. That's the when I watched the second time, they launched the pod, and you see the two portals, and there's energy in between them, but Allie's not there.
Right, that's true.
And then she flies after they disrupt that energy that's between the worlds. She's out in space. She's drawing the two worlds together there. She stops. She flies in to the portal into the void.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so they are in the void, but she was in space.
Like I think she had to start the process in the void, but then she's out in space drawing the two worlds together.
That's where like the phasing kind of concept starts to come in.
I don't know. It took that second watch for me to get she's not in the void. I
didn't think any of them were in the void at that point. So
they specifically showed John Henry gave Natalie specific instructions of how to fly through the void and what's going to happen to her and when she gets out, and they specifically showed us her and her escape pod using the portal to get into the void.
I guess that's true.
It was
forgot about that.
clear as day. That's where they are.
And she was drained. Her suit was down to like 27% after, because he said you can't fly back through the portal to go, get the XK because your energy level's too low. So they were still in the void.
Okay.
But Allie was.
Well, so maybe instead of closing the portals like they thought, maybe they just disrupted the energy, because that's when Allie gets pissed and she says, "You've disrupted me for the last time."
Yeah.
So instead of
I've got that.
So instead of maybe closing the portals, maybe all they did was disrupt the energy, and they felt like that was successful. Maybe they thought they had closed the portals, but I mean, clearly, if people are still flying in and out of them, they're open.
See, and that's why this episode is a complete mess. If we can't even figure it out, and it's this confusing, that means your writing and your explanation sucks. This thing is a mess, and it is visually stunning as it was. It made no sense, and that's why I can't rate this episode high, because I don't want to be scratching my head at the end of the finale, going, "Huh? How did that all happen?" That's not good enough on a show that's been so good. So
I think once again, I think the pacing of how stuff is divided needs to be different. We've talked about how this is a family drama with superheroes. Well, they split the finale, like Flash said, in two, and we had the super half on one half, and then we had the interpersonal relationship on the back half. Where if they had extended, the super half out, it might not have been confusing, and I don't know, but maybe.
Or not separate them, because the show has been so good at making it, like you just said, a family drama with superpowers in it.
Yeah.
That's what the show has been so good. So the other point that I wanted to say, though, is that we were exactly right. If the portal blew up, then how does Superman reach them? Because when you were trying to explain to Harley, because Jordan and Tal-Rho, both of them just flew into space, which doesn't make sense, because I think they're all still in the negative zone. It doesn't make any sense. But I rewatched that scene when I was editing, and you were right about one point there. Superman does get to them before Allie does. He gets to John Henry and Natalie before Allie gets there. Mm-hmm. And she says, "You've disrupted me for the last time," and goes after them. So here's the one thing. It looks to me like the portal is in the middle, right where Allie is, pulling the worlds together. And that's all that blows up, is just that portal entrance, because you see the big flaming circles, and that seems to be like the two entrances or the two exits.
Yeah, because you see one come in and then they go through the other.
Yeah, so it to me it seems like she's still in the nothing zone in between the worlds. And like I said, but then how does Tal get there? How does Superman get there? How do they get back?
Because
that is still the negative zone.
I know, but you see both of them come in Allie was
Superman
definitely
comes out of the
space.
sun. He's in space. Superman comes from the sun and flies right to Allie.
But he comes into the portal, saves the irons, flies back through the portal, and drops them down. So, like,
while chasing Allie, or while Allie's chasing him, one of the two.
Allie's chasing them.
Yeah, because that's right. Because to me, it looked like both doorways are still open. Because that's, like I said, the orange rings. Mm-hmm. So we see Allie fly through the one to get to the irons. Superman comes from the other.
So if you think about it this way, so once again, she started those two ends of the portals existed before she started drawing them closer together. Yeah. She started that process, and what I believe is then she went through the portal, and once they started coming into the same reality, she is out in space pulling the two worlds together.
I'm with you there.
And they disrupted the core thing in the void in between that was bringing the portals together. And then she went to see what happened because she wasn't able to, like, sustain what she was doing out in space. So she had to come in. So I'm saying that the portals still exist now. They're just closer together because she was bringing those worlds together. So
okay, it's starting to visually make a bit more sense. I thought she was there the entire time. I didn't think she.
No.
Like, so you're saying she started the inside the negative zone. She started them coming together, and then she left and came into space, and were helping. Now that both planets were in the same reality, in the same phase. She was pulling them together, and that's why she's in outer space, and that's why Tal-Rho could get to her. That's why Jordan could get to her.
And that's why
but to get to John Henry and Natalie, and so John Henry and Natalie are still in the negative zone. That's why Allie and Superman had to fly through the portal to get to where they are.
Right.
Because she was going to attack them, and he went to save them. So, okay, it's starting to make a little more sense, but it's just, we shouldn't have to figure this all out 2 days later on a podcast. It should have been explained within the show that we could understand. And that's my biggest problem with this episode, and why it's just, it was awesome, exciting, but makes no sense. And I don't like when things don't make sense, and that's what drops my score.
I feel like most people don't care, though. Like, if the average viewer, I mean, we care because we're doing a podcast on this, and obviously, like, we want to, like, be nitpicking stuff. Like, otherwise we wouldn't have a podcast. Mm-hmm. But I think, like, your average viewer is just there for the ride, and they literally don't care. Like, oh, look, that's cool.
We'll have to see what our feedbackers
Our feedbackers are not average viewers. Anyone who listens to a podcast about a TV show to listen to people critique it and then send feedback to critique it themselves is not an average watcher. Yeah. I'm talking about the other people that watch this show, the millions.
Especially if they give feedback.
Exactly.
Like, because they've got to put time and effort into thinking about it. So what we're saying, feedbackers, is you're not average.
Yeah.
You're above average.
Yes, to be clear.
I guess it's hard for me to even imagine being an average TV viewer where you just watch something and don't give a damn about what's happening. I don't understand. Why are you wasting your time watching something if you're not getting into it?
There are shows that I watch that I don't, like, dig into every little thing because that's not the nature of the show. I
just want to be entertained.
And you know, there are shows that I watch that are mysteries or comedies, and that I can just watch them. I have fun live tweeting or whatever, but I'm not, like, digging into all the details. And if I did, I'd just burn myself out. So.
Well, I mean, and that makes sense for comedies and stuff. Like, can you imagine trying to nitpick apart The Big Bang Theory or whatever? Like, you can't. But
no.
You know, I was more relating that comment to just watch a show and not, like, every TV show that I watch, I am into, because otherwise, why am I spending my time? This is valued time of my life that I'm spending on this TV show, so I am into it, and I keep up with it, and I get right integrated with the characters and their storylines, whether it's a entertainment show or one that we podcast about. It doesn't matter to me. I get into it. People that watch TV shows just for whatever, and they don't care if they miss 3 and then they come back to it. That to me, I have a hard time understanding that, because that's just not my my way of enjoying this hobby, because TV and movie viewing is my number one hobby. That's why I'm podcasting about it.
I just think if someone's sitting down to watch a cool Superman show, I don't think they're going to be sitting here wondering why these things happened. I think they're just going to accept that it happened. Yeah. We're picking it apart because that's, what we do. Yeah. That's the point. We're critics.
Yeah. But there's also fans that will watch it and just completely rip it apart because it's not realistic at all, and they're not podcast listeners or whatever. And those are the ones I'm like, why are you watching it then? Just shut up and go away. Like, I don't want to hear hear that stuff. But yeah.
Some would argue that's you. Okay. Anyways, had to be said.
Hey, I podcast because I love this stuff. I'm still here, right? So I'm allowed to. That's why we're here. We're here to debate and nitpick things apart.
That's true. Speaking of, I had a question.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when it comes to overloading Allie, I got very confused. Did the sun's energy, Clark's new energy, overload her? Did it counteract her? He definitely felt to me like he wanted her to drain him. He wanted her to take that energy on purpose. So I didn't know, did he know it was going to depower her? Was the point to overload her so that he could mess with her equilibrium or whatever, so he could shove them apart? That's the point that I was getting a little bit confused about. I was like, well, if she just absorbs energy, why didn't she just absorb all of his energy and become ultra super whatever?
Well, the way I saw
that bothered me.
I think you're exactly on. Because Superman says, "Here, take more," and he grabs her hand and puts it on his chest. Because I think he was gambling that she couldn't handle the amount of supercharged power that he just got from the sun.
Okay.
I think it basically, overload is a good word.
Yeah.
It was more than she could handle. And it broke the connection, which is what separated her two halves. It was just more than she could handle, because he was so supercharged up, more than we've ever seen Superman charged up before, that it was something that her ability wasn't able to handle. Because it is Superman. Superman should be above and beyond anybody else, no matter what villain comes at him. So I think her still being relatively new in her abilities, it was too much for her.
Okay.
And she's also been drawing two worlds together.
True.
So I think that, she's may not physically exhausted, or, it's taking a lot out of her too. So, a battery just couldn't take it. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take it.
Yeah, if you overcharge a battery, it
burns out.
Melts,
Yeah.
right? Burns up. So, yeah.
So he, in order to, the merging has stopped, but the worlds are still together. So he flies around the worlds, and then he lands and blows the worlds back apart. And that, I'm hoping Flash has that as the image for the blog post, because that was just a super cool image.
I've got one cool one already. Yeah.
Landing and just
yes. Very, very cool scene. Very, very hand-wavy comic book science. I just turned my brain off because I just wanted to enjoy it. Honestly, ideally, I'd like to have a little bit more information on why all of a sudden his supercharged abilities allowed him to disrupt this merger that was already in progress. But love the visuals. All the visuals this episode. Mad props. So good.
See, and this is why I'm wearing the yellow suit tonight, because for some reason I wasn't able to step out of reality and just accept it. This looked fantastic. I'm still with you on that. The flying at the super speed reminded me of Superman 2 when he flew around the Earth to reverse time and save Lois from the earthquake. It just was cool. The visuals on this show are unparalleled compared to all the other superhero shows. And, that super powered punch to the ground, I can't imagine what that felt like to do. It just looked so cool, but it makes no sense. The visual shows us both worlds completely inside each other. Like I already said, they're completely inside each other. They're all but one fully merged now, and it looked like some kind of messed up Rubik's Cube. And this, to me, isn't simple hand-wavy comic book science. There's just no science here at all. They didn't explain a damn thing, and that's not acceptable on this show to me. This was flash crap all over it. I mean, how does a punch to the ground separate the worlds? It doesn't make any sense. How does it not? A punch from a supercharged Superman, how does it not obliterate the worlds to smithereens? It should have obliterated them. Instead, it just separates them. I mean, it's Superman hitting the ground at hyperspace speed, pretty much. Like, not even supersonic. He was gaining momentum going around those worlds, probably hitting hyperspace velocity, like Star Trek would be proud. It would the amount of power that he hit the worlds in would be worse than the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. Both planets should have been disintegrated to dust, and they show us a massive explosion, and then what? Suddenly, it's just all sunny and peaceful, as if nothing happened. And to me, that's just total BS nonsense. It makes me angry. The more I talk about it, the more angry I get, because that part makes no sense. You cannot go from completely two merged worlds to a super punch, and now it's peaceful, sunny, birds chirping, and you know what? It just no. I can't accept that on this show. The show is too good to wrap things up that fast.
I mean, that's what he did to
with no explanation.
That's what he did to Allie. He overloaded her with supercharged energy and then split her apart. And he did the same thing to the Earths. That's about as much of an explanation as I have.
Yeah, it should have obliterated everything. Well, that just makes no sense.
He had special supercharged sun power that just pushes them apart. Come on. What's so difficult to understand?
There's no sense.
I know it doesn't make sense. It's a comic book.
It makes no sense. Here's how it makes sense. Exactly like I said, when he flew around the Earth to reverse the time to save Lois, when he was flying around both worlds...
Flying around backwards of the Earth to reverse time makes more sense to you than this shit? Come on.
Well, because he made the Earth start spinning the other way.
That doesn't work that way. That doesn't reverse time.
Working here, I'm using that as an example. What I visually expected when he's flying around the merged Earths is him flying so fast he was going to start to pull them apart. He was creating enough energy to pull the worlds apart again and send them in the opposite directions. That's what I thought he was going to do, was reverse the whole process.
Well, he did.
Not
he just punched them apart.
That punch would have obliterated everything. It would have destroyed our whole solar system. It's unbelievable. It's too far, too much.
Well, then shouldn't his punch to Allie should have gone straight through her heart then?
He didn't punch Allie.
Yes, he did.
He was holding her hands on his chest.
He goes back and goes
she overloaded.
wham!
He shoved her. He gave her an open-handed shove.
An open-handed, superpowered, supercharged shove. Yeah. You freaking kidding me? It's the same damn thing. It was not on the level
of this punch.
Yes,
it was not even close. Not even close.
Because he's trying to separate two human beings instead of two worlds. None of it makes sense. It's not supposed to.
And that's why this episode sucked. Because it makes no sense. Makes no sense. Too much for me. Him floating there and holding her, that punch is not even close to on the same level as flying around the Earth at supersonic speeds and then hitting it. Not even close. He does not generate that much power when he's just standing there holding her hands.
No, he just shoved all the power into her first.
He just gave her a shove. But it's just... anyway, whatever. Let's move on. We got more stuff to talk about.
All right, so we're going to talk about the other half of the episode.
This show that never ends.
Oh, we're only half. What is the other half?
So the wrap up of this season and season 3 teasers, maybe. So, we get a little bit of Lana making the speech on Miracle Monday and thanking Superman, and we get a flyby. And, this is, again, a favorite scene. Afterwards, Clark talks with Lana about things, and so we'll get into that later. But
that's a favorite moment. But it was nice, though. I really did enjoy that.
Yeah.
That scene.
Yeah. So we got to the point that Jess mentioned earlier, that Lois meets Chrissy at the Gazette and basically tells her the truth that Clark is Superman, and she was kind of like, okay, what? You're serious?
Yay. Finally she knows. I'm happy now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the scene was good. It's just, they just showed us how not a good reporter Chrissy is, because everyone, for this entire season, everyone was swearing, Chrissy must know, she's so good at her job, she's such a good reporter, she knows, she's just keeping it a secret. Well, they just proved to us that she's just as dumb as everyone else that can't figure it out, so whatever. But where I'm with you guys is that I love what this scene does for her and Lois's friendship. I love the actress playing Chrissy. Her reaction to finding out was spectacular. Her emotions, her surprise, her shock, her understanding of what she just found out, like all of that, she went through a gamut of expression, and it was so genuine and so pure. I loved that moment for how she played it. It was fun.
Yeah. No, I mean, either way, like whether she had figured it out or they just told her, I was fine either way. It would have been fun if she figured it out or said, like, oh yeah, I knew all along.
Yeah.
I was a little hoping for that, but I'm just glad she knows.
She almost was going to say that, because she kind of pulls back from Lois and looks at her like, yeah, like I thought she was going to say, yeah, I knew, but then
she was too, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine either way, but yeah. Yeah.
So we do get to see Jordan and Sarah talk and really do a reset on their relationship now that there are no secrets between them. And she knows that he has powers, and she knows his dad is Superman, and they kind of make a fresh start of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did she just like figure this out, or like did someone tell her, like maybe there was a scene cut? I was a bit surprised when she revealed that part. I was like, wait, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't show us how she found out, and that's disappointing. Like, we're getting into Flash territory here. Everybody's starting to know who Clark is, and that part I don't like. But how does Sarah know? Like, I'm assuming her mom just told her.
I guess, or Jordan did.
I guess so.
Yeah, I don't know. They should have just shown it. That would have been a 5-second scene to show us that extra little bit. So that's why it's just kind of weird.
I'd have rather had that than all of the Bizarro Lois stuff.
Yeah.
They could have cut that
and
stuck that in to make this make more sense.
Yeah. But, no, you're right. It's just, how many people are going to know Clark's secret now? That this was like a little too much to me. I don't want it to be like The Flash where everybody knows.
Yeah.
I like the secret.
Yeah, I'm hoping it just stays between our core families and Chrissy.
Yeah. Well, so here's the question. Are they going to tell Kyle?
That is the question. I don't know.
Yeah, that kind of leads into the relationship between he and Lana, because she really lays it out that she doesn't know if she can ever get over what he did, and that he's going to be a part of their lives, but what he wants is not going to be a reality, and they kind of have that tearful last dance. So
yeah, and to me it's like, are we saying goodbye to Kyle as a character on the show? Because they just kind of made him totally irrelevant now. Kind of like he felt this whole episode. He didn't feel relevant at all. I mean, a little bit of stuff with him and Lana, but this is almost like they're kind of wiping the slate with him. I don't know. I don't know if he'll be back.
Yeah.
Because what's he going to do? Like,
yeah, I don't know.
Not as a regular. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he's not a regular anymore. I don't know. Yeah, because he doesn't... If they're not really getting back together, I don't really see this show doing the whole, like, will they, won't they for a whole season? Or at least hopefully not. So, I don't know.
Because who's invested in that?
No one. I don't think. So, I don't know. We'll see.
And that's why I said I feel bad for the actor playing Kyle. He's kind of gotten shafted. He has some cool stuff in season 1, but he's... Yeah. I mean, we talk about how poor Jonathan isn't getting much to do. I think Kyle's got the worst. He's got the worst end of the stick for this season.
True.
Yeah, I agree. So, I did like the little scene of Clark and Lois dancing, and him wishing everybody could be as happy as the two of them are. So I did like that little scene, kind of bring us back with their relationship.
Do you think Clark was listening in on Kyle and Lana there? Because looking from his perspective, they look like they're happy. They're dancing together. And I'm wondering if Clark and Lois were going, oh, look at them. They're fixing things. When really that's not what's happening.
I probably he could hear. That's my sense, that he kind of understood what was going on because he could hear it. So.
Yeah, maybe not intentionally, but yeah, it definitely felt like he knew what was going on.
Yeah. Okay.
So here's where we get a little bit of setup for next time. Diggle, this Earth's Diggle, basically comes in and he talks with John Henry and asks if he knows Bruno Mannheim, who is the head of Intergang. And so in the comics, Intergang is a group of villains and mobbish type people that Superman fights. And we've heard of them and heard mention of them in season 1. So we've got some hints there, and it seems that this world's John Henry was killed by Bruno. And so maybe this is a setup for a storyline for John Henry for next season.
I would guess that, but yeah, I had no clue what they were talking about. And so I was expecting Diggle to have something, I guess, like more like meaningful, but then we had already gotten kind of like the reveal from Sam. So just when it came to the scene, I was just like expecting more, but like then it just never came. But it was like literally just this plot point. I was like, wait, what are they even talking about? So yeah, I could have done probably without the scene.
I got the perfect thing for that. Because that's exactly how I feel. What if this was supposed to be some big awesome reveal? It was a total dud. Who's Intergang and why should we care? Are they a street gang? What kind of villain is that for Superman? I mean, to me, it's a total fizzle of a reason to bring Diggle in. Other than we find out he knew John Henry, possibly, the one from this world. At least that backstory I'd like to see in some flashbacks or something. That would be fun. Then it gives the actor that we love playing John Henry, it gives him more to do. If we start to build a background for him and start to care for him a little bit more, that would be really cool. But other than that, like, why does Diggle have to come to reveal that? It was pointless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, it was a big build-up because the 2 weeks before there was a lot of hype for Diggle coming on the show, and he's going to explain everything.
Yeah.
Okay, what did he explain? Because I don't know anything about Intergang.
Yeah, like I said, he probably just set it up for John Henry, I guess, like we said. Yeah. So that's all I got.
Yeah. So
okay,
here's we get Lois going to the DOD and confronting the two Alleys in the holding cell, and they admitted that their merger wasn't what they hoped for, and they were forcing it on everybody else because they didn't want to be alone.
I just thought this whole thing with the two of them was kind of like fascinating with how it actually worked, like once they actually merged and what they turned into, because we were kind of almost treating it as they turned into this third person, but they revealed that they never actually merged completely together. Like they were like, it felt like one personality was more dominant than the other, but they weren't really technically combined. And it was also as if like by the two of them merging, like they had this crazy power and it corrupted them, but they still thought of themselves as we and as them, and refer to themselves in the plural. And so that's why I just thought like it was just really interesting to me to kind of like play with what she ended up turning into, what she was trying to do, and then what ended up happening. Because she was trying to make like the world a better place and make everybody whole, but then the reality of them merging didn't actually make them whole at all. It just completely corrupted them. So that's why I just found it kind of really interesting, just like as a study of minds. Like it was almost kind of like maybe this is because of some of the shows I've been watching recently, but like it almost felt like dissociative identity disorder in a way. You've got like the two people in one.
Okay. You said that makes me understand your reaction a little bit more, because I was a little surprised, because I know all season long you loved the whole cult idea that they were forming around her, and that just really kind of just got left behind and thrown out the window to tell this merging story, and the merging story just made no sense. And the way you worded that, X-Force, is the merge was not what they hoped for, and they just forced on everyone because they didn't want to be alone. All that tells me is that Allie was a big flop as a villain and had no actual reason or motive behind her entire story. And that just makes her completely uninteresting to me, because if it ends up she's like, I just don't want to, I don't want to be alone. Are you kidding me? You have no motive behind anything that you're doing, then that means your writing was just a complete failure this season. And like I said, 5 or 6 episodes ago, I said, Allie's not working anymore. They've lost her somewhere in the storyline, and it's no longer working. It's not interesting anymore, and it just got worse and worse and farther away until that one episode when it showed that she had power and she finally looked like she was something to be concerned with when she drained Superman. And I was like, okay, now she means something. But ultimately, in the end, it's not.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was just, they definitely took a turn with it, that's for sure. Yeah, because they had to build up 2 different versions of her. And yeah, I loved like the whole cult aspect, but they kind of left it all behind. But I think that's like part of when you see the character turn and you get this idea that the merge isn't what they thought it was, and that it's definitely corrupted. The power has, corrupted them as well. So I don't know.
Right.
I thought it was interesting. Maybe not a great villain, but interesting.
Yeah, that's a good way to separate it.
Next up is Tal-Rho, and it turns out he's bought 2 big trucks for the boys, and then he headed to the inverse world to check on his wife, his inverse wife.
Now that I was not expecting. I was not expecting him to go to the other world, which I found kind of hilarious and a little weird. I thought the trucks were a fun touch, and it just kind of, the scenes just made me laugh a little bit. Probably a little unnecessary. Did we really need that? No, probably not. But I want to know how Tal's going to feel when he realizes his wife is Lana.
Mm-hmm.
See, and you saying that, Harley, how does Tal not know Lana is his wife there? I thought I remember there being a scene when he was in his yellow sun cell or red sun cell, when Clark was filling him in, and I thought there was a scene where he showed surprise that he was married to Lana on that other world. I swear they had something in there like that.
I don't think they ever.
So how would he not know?
I don't think they ever mention her by name. He just says, "You have a wife," and he's like, "I have a wife."
Okay.
I don't think they ever mention her by name, though.
Oh, I thought they did. Okay, maybe someone else will know that. We have to revisit that. But okay, yeah. So explain this though. I think we're going to talk. You've got some questions coming here, X-Force, but does this tell us that Tal is maybe off the show now? Because we can't have 2 shows going off of about 2 different worlds that aren't connected anymore. So was that kind of the farewell to Tal-Rho? He's gone?
So I think we've answered a lot of my questions, but I think the portals still exist, and they're a lot closer to each other than they were before. Like, there's not as much of a gap between them because Allie was bringing the worlds together. So it allows for quicker travel between the 2 worlds and enabled him to get over to the inverse world. So we can see...
Yes, because we deduced that the escape pod bomb blew up the connection that was drawing them together. So they're not being drawn together anymore, but they're now stagnant in their new locations.
Right, they're a whole lot closer to each other. So, yes, we will be able to see him, but not as often. And I think it does open up a storyline for him to be the hero over in that world. What we speculated is that he would become the Superman over in that world. And so I think it opens up some storylines that, will we see him every episode? No, but it gives us a chance to play in that world and for him to be more of a hero.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if they show us more of him and show us more glimpses of this other world, or if it'll just be a thing where they can kind of like call on him when he's needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, they could go back to whatever season of Flash was when they had Earth 2, and they every once in a while they went and visited and did things there, so it could be like that.
That's true. I mean, I would like that, but I don't know if they'll... I mean, I just don't know what other stories they would tell.
Yeah, I don't know.
It would allow the actors to get to play their doppelgangers, which I'm sure they had fun doing, right?
Yeah.
That's true.
And I guess from what we know, you know, I was thinking at first, like, are they still in our reality? And then no, that they got flipped back over, that the worlds got flipped back over. But I do, like, did that mean everybody got flipped back over? Or we saw the alleys weren't flipped back over. So is that only because that they were in a XK cell? So I'm assuming that kept them from flipping back over. So it's inverse Lana and inverse John still in the cages. So we don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, they left some stuff hanging there.
It's not like Superman flew everybody that flipped over back over to that Earth. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think all the normal people flipped over, but because the two alleys were merged together, and they were in space in the end there, and fell to our Earth after Superman threw them away, like they weren't part of the blipping. They weren't part of the blitzing or the whatever.
The glitching, yeah.
The glitching, that's the word I'm trying to think of. The blitzing, the glitch. I combined that two. They weren't part of that because they were already merged pretty much at that point. So they weren't part of the glitching out. So that's why they're here on our Earth. But you have a good question there. Lana and John, where the alternate versions of them, where were they? And then, like you said, there was too much left unexplained.
Wow.
And that to me isn't a good way to end a show, because it makes me think of all the fans that hated the Lost ending. Not enough got explained at the end of that show. Well, not enough got explained at the end of this one either, and I don't like that feeling.
Well, at least the show's not over. Is why I have to say that. But we know where.
No, you're right. But
I mean, Lana and John are at the DoD. They took them away in was it the last episode or the one before, after the big fight? So I think because they traveled over, and like you said, they aren't part of the glitching in and out, or maybe they were. We don't know exactly what was happening at the DoD during all of this. It could be an interesting plot point to show that they did like phase back over, or glitch back over, or whatever.
Well, that actually, no, I think you just explained it. It's because they are physically here on this world. They're not part of the glitching, because the glitching was only happening between the two worlds. So if they were already physically here, they're not good. The glitching won't affect them
unless
they're already here.
Unless it takes them back somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that would make sense, because they used the portals to come through already, so they were already here.
And also, if Lana is here and locked up, and Tal-Rho is on the other world, he's
not going to meet her.
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah. For a second, I thought that girl, like the bartender, before she turned around, like, what? How can that be? Like, Lana is now super Lana. Would she ever go back to being a bartender anyway?
I doubt it.
Like, yeah. Because that was her beginning. In the flashbacks, that was her beginnings before... well, we're not sure if she had powers at that point or not, but it was her origin was at the bar. So from that point on, I believe she's left the bar, and she's now super Lana, right? So
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So
I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there are more stories to tell with that world. I guess we'll find out.
And we do get a little closure on Lucy. She's moving to Metropolis to start her new life, and it's good that she can get there, and things are getting settled in the Lane family. So I like that.
But that felt thrown in. Why was she suddenly there at the very end and not part of this entire episode? She was such a major plot point to the Allie storyline. She should have been part of this a little bit more. And that, to me, was yet another scene we didn't really need because she wasn't part of the show.
Yeah, I feel like some of the other people, they probably could have just left her out.
Yeah, I agree. All right, here we go. The Kents go on a vacation, and in the middle of the sea, Clark tosses out his mom's crystal to create a iceberg fortress for the entire family, not just for him. And he hints that his mom is looking forward to meeting John and has some tech for him.
I thought this was another great visual, so I really loved that aspect of it. And I definitely prefer the water-based fortresses to the desert one. The desert one just takes me too far out of it. It just doesn't feel like Superman at that point, so I don't really like that. But I do like that they've got a new fortress and that it's in, I don't know, not frigid climates.
I don't get it. Why the ocean? To me, that's easily discovered. His fortress is supposed to be completely hidden and secret away from the rest of the world. But in the ocean, it's if you look at where it is, there's no way they can be that far out in the ocean that no one's going to discover it, because you look at the boat that they were in. They were just in this tiny little boat with an outboard motor. They can't be that far out, because if they went that far out into the ocean, that boat would be tossed. I think I say that later, but I'm going to say it now. So the fortress is going to be seen by everyone, and it makes no sense to me. I like the desert one. I like the Arctic one better. I don't understand why he doesn't just remake the one in the Arctic, because up there it's still completely secret. That this ocean thing makes no sense. Cool visually, yes. Makes no sense.
I got nothing on the why.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, look at the boat they were in. Like, if anybody can just hop in their friggin' rowboat with a motor and get out to it, it's going to be discovered by everybody.
You're not wrong. I don't know. Maybe it sinks back under the water. Maybe it's like Atlantis. I don't know.
Oh, well, that would be cool. That would be neat. Yeah.
So I had a question about this tech. So are we going to see John in armor next season? Or will this tech jumpstart his powers? I don't know. Thoughts? Speculations?
I have absolutely no idea. I'm just glad it's a storyline for John that doesn't involve drugs or football. So I would like for him to have an actual plot point that is not contrived just to keep him on the show.
Yes, that would be cool to see some Kryptonian tech for John to play with.
Yeah.
The thing is we have the irons and they're fully teched out, so it has to be different enough that it doesn't feel like been there, done that already. So what kind of Kryptonian does he just get a little like headband and it ignites his powers? Like it has to be something cool and different enough, because we already have a lot of tech on the show. So I'm curious what they're going to do, but I'm excited, like you, Harley, that he might actually get a decent story to work with.
Yeah.
Or just something more entertaining.
Just something.
And we've talked about this, but like, how are the non-flying Kents getting to this fortress easily? Like, as opposed to this long trip and like how
family vacation. I don't know. By boat.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. The same way they just got there now. I got nothing.
Again, that little boat can't handle that far out. It'll get tossed like a toy in the ocean with the currents and the waves that are out that far in the ocean. It's just, it's not realistic. Too much for me.
Silly idea. Got a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. The two flying ones could fly the two non-flying ones, I guess. I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah. But why would Lois and John go there anyway? I mean, I guess go visit Mama, Mama Soups. Lara, right?
Yeah. I don't know, but they definitely made it a point that it's a family thing, so.
Yeah. Well, let's see what kind of favorite scenes we pulled out of this finale, shall we? That seems like a fun thing to do.
Shape out an eagle!
Okay. X-Force kicking us off.
Yeah, I called this one Saving You. So this is where Tal is talking to his brother about the effect that he's had on him. So let's take a listen.
How do we stop Allie?
Well, brother, we aren't going to stop her. I am.
Tal, she drained me of all my energy. Nearly killed me. I don't know that you alone is going to be enough.
Perhaps, but what other choice do we have?
Brother, for years I've watched you do things no other hero is capable of.
It's rather inspired me to have a go myself.
So this time last year, you were trying to destroy the world, and now you're fighting for it.
I'm not fighting for the world, Cal. I'm fighting for you. You and your family are the only people on this planet that truly matter to me. Skiloro kiathwarup ewete.
Yeah, he doesn't really care about the world. He only cares about his brother and the family. And like us, we've said he's come a long way from last season. He's not come all the way around. He's still somewhat of a gray character, but I am happy with the progression, and I think it's a good kind of close to how far he's come this season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally happy with what they did with Tal-Rho. It's been a very long redemption that he's had to earn, and I'm okay with it. He still is kind of gray. He's not a complete Superman type superhero, but I think it's good. I think it's good where he's at. I like it.
I do too. I just really love the actor, so I kind of don't care what they come up with to keep him around as long as they keep him around. So I thought it was a great scene. I loved all their scenes together this episode. It's good.
Definitely. Well, what's your favorite scene, Harley?
I had a hard time picking because honestly, like you, all of my favorite scenes were incredibly visual. But where I think I've landed is called You're My Hero.
Dad, what are we going to do?
No, Mug, I need you to close your eyes and just listen to my voice.
No, Dad, you listen to me. I need you to hear this.
I have always been so proud to be your daughter. And ever since I was a little girl, you were my hero. You've always been my hero.
I love you, Dad. I always will.
And I'm gonna miss you.
I'm gonna miss you too, Buck.
Dad!
No!
Dad!
No!
Dad!
Whoa.
Has a little bit of an intense ending that we don't get to see the rest of, but in this clip. But yeah, no, I like that she finally gets to say goodbye because her scenes throughout this whole episode were kind of finally building to this point where she's kind of slowly but surely saying her goodbyes. She's, I think, already kind of mentally come to terms with what she thinks is gonna have to happen out in the void, and I don't think she thinks she's gonna return.
Right.
But all she really wants is just to be able to tell one of her parents what they meant to her and to say goodbye on her terms.
Yeah. I agree with you. It almost felt like, are they going to write these characters off? No way, they can't. This isn't how they're going to end two characters. But I thought we might lose one of them. Maybe
they got me for a minute too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this brings us to mine, which is right near the end of the episode during all the family drama stuff. I'm calling this one Super Friends.
Congratulations, Mayor. On the speech, on the events, on being exactly the kind of leader you have always wanted this town to have.
Thank you. It means a lot coming from you.
I wish I'd been there. To vote for you, to help with the campaign, to be there when things were hard.
You were busy. And as a trade-off, you did save the world. It would have been kind of rough dealing with Armageddon my first week as mayor, so let's call it even.
That's fair. I just hope we can find a way to...
Clark, after you told me everything, I just needed space. I guess a part of me thought that I could protect my girls from all this craziness, which was naive. But even if Sarah didn't know, it would be tough getting through this life without you in it.
Same. And I promise from now on, I will always be completely honest about everything.
Yeah, and that scares me.
Yeah.
But at least we'll all be in it together.
Yeah.
So there's 3 reasons why I like that scene. Like you, Harley, I wanted to pick all the action sequences, but I like it for the actors. They have a good chemistry together. it seems like they're actual friends, and it doesn't seem like it's hard for them to pull off this friendship because it's very believable. I like it for the characters. It's Clark and Lana, that they've grown up together, and they're showing how good their friendship is. It's a very strong friendship, and they're finally getting to have some time together and to acknowledge that and to express themselves together. And the third final reason is that it closes off that crap of the I want to keep our family separated nonsense that we all hated. Mm-hmm. It closes that off, and now we get to see the two families working together and helping each other. So there's a lot about that little moment I liked.
Yeah, I agree. I like that it has brought the families back together and that we'll get to see them collaborate now with everybody knowing everything. And I did catch, as I was listening back to it, she does have a line where she says, now that Sarah knows. So I don't know if that's our nod that she told her.
Oh, yeah,
or maybe
right.
she let Jordan, or like gave Jordan permission to tell her, but she did. I did hear that when you played the clip back. I didn't catch it before, but yeah.
Yep. Good catch, Charlie. All right, well, we're about to move into feedback. We want to remind you one more time for Superman and Lois about our Patreon support.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
Don't hide all night and day and wish that you could have your say. The time is now for you to take the floor. Top up your drink and find your nerve. Get the attention that you deserve. But keep it quick, we've no patience for a bore. Don't be a bore.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your chance to step up into the spotlight and tell us what you think. Here they are, ready to listen to your feedback or show you the door. The Flash, Harley Quinn, and X-Force 11.
Yes, and here we are. Oh, by special request for X-Force, you wanted to hear that one again. You know what's great about that? Like there's so many different voices, but they're all Dan. He does every single voice in the singing. The high pitch, the woman's voice, the background singers. It's hilarious.
It's amazing.
We'll have to see how his winter is. Maybe we can get a couple new ones from him over the winter when it's not so busy.
Nice.
Well, that is feedback time, guys, and we're going to kick it off with an email from Comic Geek Kev.
Wow. What did I just watch? Okay, I'm going to come right out and make it clear that there were a couple of hand-wavy things that I've had, that I've got headcanon explanations for, and I'll leave it at that. like us. As usual, with few exceptions, the effects were very cool. The Earth inside Bizarro world was a great concept of conveying the merging worlds. But I guess I'm not clear. Were they merging, or was B World taking over? That seemed a little convoluted. Yeah, we kind of get it. we discussed that. Yeah.
Hopefully we cleared it up.
Yeah.
I think we kind of figured it out.
Yeah. Lana seems to have gotten over her quote-unquote space needs pretty well. I guess forcing world destruction and having the guy who upset you save the world kind of puts the things into perspective. I appreciate, however, that Lana didn't suddenly decide things with Kyle were okay. That would have been too happy ending for me. I'm glad Chrissy knows about Clark. I just thought she'd figure it out for herself. When Lois said that she wanted to talk about Clark, I half expected her to say, "You mean that he's Superman?" I had forgotten about Lois trying to cover for him. Jordan in space! nice. They're really stepping up his powers pretty quickly. So assuming that they are ignoring all the other CW heroes, we now have 3 Kryptonians on Earth. Well, maybe.
Yeah.
One's on the inverse world, but anyway.
Yeah.
I almost feel that that's writing themselves into a corner. How powerful does a bad guy have to be to pose a threat? I feel like Tal-Rho is going to stay in the Bizarro world for a while. Yeah. But I trust the writers. They haven't let us down yet. I hope they revisit him there. Yeah, me too.
Well, see, now I'm just going to interrupt for a second. Kevin's got a point there. How strong does a villain have to be to pose a threat if you've got only Kryptonians on this world? And that's always been the problem with Superman, is because he is so unstoppable. I mean, there's just nothing that Superman can't do. So his villains always have to be pretty over the top to make it even worthwhile. And that's why I say bring in Brainiac, bring in something like that. So I'm concerned about this Intergang. That just doesn't seem like a Superman level villain. But we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, and that could be one of those villains that he's going to work with John Henry on, but there'll be another villain, for him and the boys. But we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Diggle is making the CW rounds again, although I guess there's not many shows to go to anymore. Come on, CW, do something with his character besides guest spots. He spent enough time as a supporting character. I agree. I'd love to see the Justice U, so we'll see if that actually happens. We haven't heard anything on, filming a pilot yet, but I'd love to see him do that. So
totally.
Did we get a hint that Jonathan might get some of his own powers? I'm not sure if Clark meant technology that could give him powers, or maybe something like a suit or weapons. Let's hope that gets followed up on. It's not uncommon for shows to bring something up just to forget about it.
Yeah.
Overall, another great episode. The worst part, it was the season finale, and now we have to wait forever for the next season. At least till end of January, beginning of February. I'm giving this 9.5 out of 10 Leagues of Heroes. Thanks, Sam. Until next time, which I guess is the Legends Wrap-Up, Comic Geek Kev.
Yeah, that is. It's going to be a long wait till Superman comes back. Holy cow, like most of summer, fall, and winter we're waiting.
Yeah. But we got Stargirl in the fall, so.
Yeah, that's true. We got Stargirl, so. And Legends Wrap-Up, that is definitely next. Yeah. Next up is an email from Christy. Did you want to take this one, Harley, or would you want me to read it?
I can try. We might have some interjections from the peanut gallery over here, but...
Okay.
All right. I have to say, I really enjoyed this finale, although it wasn't structured how I thought it would be. I didn't expect almost the last half of the episode to be wrap-up, but all the scenes were really great. Tal's truck gift was a highlight for me, as well as Chrissy finding out about Superman. She reacted how any normal human being would have, freaked out, giddy, staring at him later. I loved it. It seems Sarah also knows Clark is Superman. I guess that would be a logical conclusion, even if they didn't tell her. I absolutely cannot wait to see the inside of the new fortress. What an awesome special effect. I'm sure this wasn't supposed to be funny, but I laughed every time Bizarro Lois appeared on screen, just lurking and staring in the background.
Yeah,
we talked about nothing. Superman getting powered by the sun was amazing. It seems he got an extra power boost that seemed to overwhelm Allie when she tried to siphon off him again. Hearing him say, "Take some more," and subsequently giving her a massive wallop was so satisfying. Quote, massive wallop. I like that. There was something...
Wallop's a good word.
There was something super creepy seeing the two Allies sharing a prison cell. Yeah, that was really creepy. I actually hope we don't see them again. This whole merging pendant concept was murky at best, and I don't think we need to revisit it. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Lucy should have to suffer some kind of consequence for her actions. A tearful "I'm sorry" after nearly getting her dad and Superman killed and empowering Allie isn't enough. How is Tal able to travel to the square Earth now that the portals have been destroyed? We discussed that quite a bit.
I think we got that one figured out, so hopefully that helps give you the answer.
We think. And that was Christy.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome thoughts, Chrissy. It's good to hear from you twice in a row now.
Yeah. Keep it up.
Yeah. All right. We got a slew of voicemails following up, so we can all rest our voice boxes. Here's the first one. Green Butterfly.
Hi, Superfam. This is your Eye in the Sky Green Butterfly. Wow, that was a fantastic finale of Superman and Lois. So exciting. My favorite part would be the fact that Superman can still inspire hope whether or not he has his strength. I really, really like that theme. And I'm really excited for superheroing to become a family affair, because I already think that Lois changes the world with her reporting, and I'm excited to see where Jordan and Jonathan are going to go. I was excited with the reveal of the new fortress, that they have a solution for Jonathan to have more of a role in superpowers if he doesn't get them naturally. That there is technology and that can help him, because if I learned anything in these years of watching superhero shows, is there is a lot of humans that become great heroes without being another species or race giving them those powers. So I'm excited to see what this brings for John, and hopefully will help him feel not so ostracized from the rest of his family. I like the fact that his grandma is excited to meet him. I think that will really help bring him into the fold. I thought the cinematography was very cool in this episode, like of the worlds merging and how they shot it and showed it was very disconcerting and disorienting, which is exactly how I think it would feel if worlds started merging. I personally had a really hard time with my vision challenges and my migraines. I had a really hard time watching it carefully, so I'm really excited to hear you guys talk about those scenes, because I have a feeling there might have been details that I missed because I was having trouble focusing with all the red lighting and the blipping in and out. I was excited to spend time with Lucy this season. I started the season very skeptical because she's not the Lucy that I met on Supergirl. She's not that character. But as I dive more and more into comic books, I begin to understand that this is just so common, that the same character can be totally different, written by other writers, and they can exist on other worlds simultaneously. So once I realized that this doesn't affect my Lucy story, it doesn't diminish it or change what I liked about our Lucy on Supergirl. I really enjoyed meeting a new version of Lucy and understanding what that was going to mean. I'm super excited that we have John Diggle still serving as a bridge in the universe. I hope that this means good things for his upcoming, hopefully, DC project, DC University. That would be so cool to me. So I just wanted to thank you guys for such a fantastic season and all the work that you've put into it. And I'm sorry that I have been absent. This butterfly has been crazy in the real world work, and you guys have brought me so much joy over the past year with your podcast. So thank you so very much. I give this episode 10 out of 10 terrific night spent with my super fam. Thank you so much for inviting John and I to be in this super fam with you. On July 5th on Dive into DC, we will be discussing the second half of Earth Prime Comics. So I hope that you will join us there, and I look forward to all the bonus content that has been talked about, and I just thank you all very much. This is your Eye in the Sky Green Butterfly. Have a super week.
Aw.
Nice.
Thanks so much, Green Butterfly. Justina,
Yeah.
you are a dear friend of ours, so it's awesome to have you guys part of the family. I mean, legitimately, business-wise, you've always been our friends and family members anyway. But it's just good to hear from you. I always wonder if you're still out there listening to us because you've been busy with your own podcast, and every once in a while we hear from you, so it's good to know you're still out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Keeping an eye on us.
Yep.
Next up is Dad L.
Hello, Super Fam. Dad L back with my thoughts on the Superman and Lois finale. Let me start off by saying I love the glowing S-Shield this week, just like I asked for last week. A shining S-Shield energized with solar radiation. That was awesome. The thing I love about this show is how it portrays Superman as an icon of hope and then follows through with it. It's not just lip service. The speech he gave to Jonathan and Jordan, don't lose hope. It's not just a speech. The show is hopeful. There's always a way. Superman finds a way. The most epic scene this week, I believe, was Superman in the sun being recharged. You see his skin just like burning off and then healing. Wow, that was something to see. That was just an awesome scene. Superman is not just the Man of Steel. He is the man with a steel will. I am all in on this show being in its own universe. We need the best stories possible. I do not want it to be hindered by a shared universe. And actually, with Flash coming to an end, I don't mind that the Arrowverse proper, the Universe Prime, is coming to an end. Flash is far from what it once was. The other Arrowverse shows just didn't do it for me. I didn't either watch them or gave up quickly. But I'm so glad that they finally made it clear they're going to tell the best stories possible. Finally, I was all in also on the ending. A new fortress, Jonathan getting some Kryptonian tech that follows up on how he was helping John Henry early in the season. I like them following through with that. And then the ending was a perfect line. We are just getting started. That was awesome. Hopefully that means foreshadows many more seasons to come. And I did have a few nitpicks, though. When Superman saved the day, defeated Allie, I think we needed just a little more dialogue, maybe a line or two, of how he figured out that overloading her was the key. It felt like I missed something there. I know he recharged in the sun, but somehow he knew it just didn't jumpstart it. It supercharged him. And then he was able to overload Allie. So that just wasn't real clear how he figured that out. And also the super punch to the merging Earths. I guess he figured out that overloading Allie could separate her. The same could be done to the Earths. Just overcharge them with energy and boom. I thought this could have been better if he just had a quick eureka moment maybe after he overcharged Allie. That he's kind of, we just needed to see him figure it out, I think. After all, we've seen Steel go after Allie, Tal went after her. They didn't have a real plan. They just kept going after her. So Superman's plan, he really didn't seem that he had one. And then somehow he figured it out. And just a few scientific nitpicks that probably Harley will appreciate. Superman's flight to the sun with Tal. He could not have survived that in his weakened state in the vacuum of space. And then they talked to each other. So just hand wave over that. But I just thought I'd bring it up. And if I saw things right, Tal had Superman's suit before they flew to the sun, yet Superman took off in his normal Smallville farm clothes. I guess did Tal change him on the way there? That would have been kind of awkward.
I thought that too.
Anyway, I thought it was a great finale, but there was some hand-waving, some things I think could have been explained just a little bit better. I'm going to give it 8.5 S-Shields of Hope. Overall, I'm going to give Season 2 an 8.5, just like this episode. I thought the season was full of good action, good family dynamics. I love seeing a version of Bizarro. I love seeing John Henry and Natalie and their family. But it did have some things that I thought brought the season down. Some more manufactured drama. The crazy breaks, obviously, in the schedule. XK drug use. And I thought maybe the scope of this season was just a little bit too big. But I'm hopeful that next year, with the villain that they have coming, that the scope will be just a little bit tighter, a little bit smaller. So, anyway, thank you guys for the work you've done this past season on the podcast. Looking forward to Stargirl. Dad-El as father of Krypton.
Awesome stuff, Dad-El. Thanks for that. See, Harley, our fans, our dedicated listeners know you. That's the... Now I got a little backup there that they're expecting you to rip apart the science.
I know. And you know what? I don't know. I was in one of those moods where I was like, just going to hand wave it away. I'm just not going to let it bother me that they're talking in space or that he couldn't have changed or any of those things. Yeah.
That part was funny.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
We didn't even bring that up, but yeah, he totally takes off in farm clothes. So if you just have visualized that, so is he stripping down naked up in the sky there?
Yeah, because that's going to work
Superman
well.
suit. Yeah.
Yeah, and Tal would have to do it because, like, Clark couldn't speed change.
And he can't fly.
He doesn't have
just the visuals. Well, thanks for your kind words, Dad-El. We've been happy to have you along with the journey, and we're looking forward to Stargirl as well. So keep it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm feeling very, very centered out here. I might not have any friends after tonight. So far, everybody's loved this finale.
I have a feeling our traditional closer will be right in your camp. Actually, I think the next two are probably right in your camp because they usually are.
We'll have to see. Yes, my last two hopes. Speaking of hope, my last two hopes are Perry White and Dreamweaver. Let's see if I'm not alone. Here's Perry.
Hey fam of Steel, Perry White here with feedback for Soups and Lows Season 2 finale, Waiting for Superman. I watched the finale twice and, quite honestly, I still don't know exactly what to make of it. Let's start with what I liked about the episode. I like watching fully powered Soups overpower Allie and split the two Earths. I thought that looked pretty cool, and it was a fun scene to watch. I like that, even though in the moment, it would have been easy for Lana to take Kyle back, she didn't. That seems like the route that most shows would have gone, but I'm glad that Lana stuck to her guns. And certainly Kyle has done some things to try and redeem himself, but what he's done, I don't know too many people in my real life who've been cheated on and have gone back into that relationship. So it's sort of nice to see Lana stick to what she thinks is best. I like that Jordan and Sarah now have a real chance at a relationship. And I think it's the kind of relationship that it's either going to succeed or fail based on their chemistry and not be undermined by lies anymore. So I'm interested in seeing where that goes. I like that Lois told Chrissy the truth about Clark being Superman, even though it felt like a sort of a throw-in scene and it was kind of underwhelming. I still like the overall fact that she told Chrissy, and I like what that sort of means for where that relationship and where Chrissy's story goes in season 3. I like that John Henry and Natalie have a much stronger and fairly equal relationship now. That's sort of nice to see. Also, I like that going into season 3, John Henry seems to have his own story to explore with Bruno Mannheim and Intergang. I also like that going into season 3, John has a chance to explore his Kryptonian heritage as opposed to just Clark sharing that with Jordan. So it's nice to see that too. I also like that Tal-Rho having a chance to explore Bizarro World and maybe be the hero that world needs. Most importantly, I like having the clarity that Superman and Lois are on their own Earth, free of the creative shackles that might be placed upon them if they were essentially on Earth Prime in the Arrowverse. I just sort of wish that had been made clear from the very beginning, because I would imagine that there are people who were upset with that revelation because they were always under the impression that everyone was on Earth Prime. And I can sort of understand that anger. I'm just not one who shares that. All right. So here's what I did not like. And I know that we sort of talked about this because this seems to be the sort of way that the CW ends their seasons, but they ended this whole thing incredibly quickly, and I didn't like the fact that basically Superman was able to resolve this season-long conflict And just so quickly and easily. I didn't like that at all. Okay. Here's all the crap that bumfuzzled me. All right. What was the point of having Bizarro Lois show up? She had one line as soon as she got there. Then all she did was stand in the background looking like a gothic shadow. Made absolutely no sense. I know this is sort of like not that big of a deal, but how did Tal buy those trucks for the boys? Last time I checked, he was a prisoner of the DOD, and he would have obviously had all of his Morgan Edge assets seized, right? So what did he do to be able to afford those trucks? Did he just steal them? Who the hell knows? All right. Here's something that confused me to a great deal, and you guys probably are able, I'm hoping, will be able to clear this up for me. But I was confused as to where exactly all of that space fighting action took place. Tal seemed to just go up into the atmosphere to take on Allie, and sort of the same thing for Superman, right? But Natalie had to fly through the portal to get to her dad, and they were then confronted by Allie, apparently in the same sort of space place that she was fighting Tal, and that she also faced Superman. So why was Superman and Tal able to just sort of like fly up into space and take on Allie, but Natalie had to seemingly go to this void to get to her dad, who wound up sort of being in the same place that Allie was? Was it just because since Allie was merging the two worlds that everything was so close all of a sudden? I'm just a little confused about that. Maybe you guys can help clear that up. Okay. Here is some things that I probably would have done differently. When Lois went to speak to the two Alleys at the end, I thought it would have been appropriate if Lucy would have been there. I think it would have provided some closure that Lucy needed, and I think it would have benefited the audience to a degree to see Lucy come to that realization also. Okay. Here's another thing that I would have sort of maybe done differently. Allie's plan, as misguided and destructive as it seemed, it was still all about, quote unquote, helping broken people feel whole. Splitting Allie in two, depowering her, and preventing the merger of the two Earths ended the threat of Allie, right? But it still didn't address the fact that there were plenty of people on both Earths who felt broken, were desperate, and followed Allie. I think the show and the episode, in my opinion, didn't address how those people were saved from their own personal misery. I think they should have done a little bit to sort of address that, and I think that was a mistake in my opinion. Here's another thing. If they made a point to bring Bizarro Lois into this episode, they should have given her more than that one line. I feel like maybe we missed an opportunity for Bizarro Lois to spend some time with John, since her relationship with the John on her Earth was so broken. Maybe those are scenes that got cut from this episode. I don't know, but there just felt like there were some things that were missing from this episode, and maybe they just got edited out. And also, since they spent so much time featuring Bizarro John and Bizarro Lana during the season, they should have appeared in the finale. I mean, it would have made much more sense for them to be there, especially if you're going to bring in Bizarro Lois. Oh well. If I have to give this episode a rating, I'm going to give it 6 Superman Earth-splitting punches out of 10. This has been Perry White making his finale deadline, and I'm out.
Wow, that was a pretty abrupt finish there, Perry. You're on a good roll there, and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm just rating it a 6. I'm done. So a couple points. I was taking notes that he brought up. So the space fights, I think we had a pretty at-length, in-depth discussion figuring that out, and I think X-Force kind of really got it explained in a way that we could all visually understand. So that was good there. The Lucy stuff, he actually had a really good idea. Lucy should have been at the jail cell with Lois to visit the two Allies. That would have really completed that storyline nicely, I think.
And that would have made more sense than the little scene that we got of her leaving to go to Metropolis. I mean, that would have made more sense for the two of them there to really give Lucy some closures. But I don't know.
Exactly. So good writing there, Perry. And the last point I have is his idea, and Harley, maybe you can address this one, his idea about all of the people, all the cult followers, the people that were troubled and have issues, and Allie was the one that made them feel better. That whole idea just kind of gets dropped. Like, so Allie gets defeated, does that mean all those people suddenly feel better? No, they probably don't. They're still in the same place they were in before she showed up. So that's kind of I know the show doesn't have the time to address all of that and to show us all of the people all around the world being without her, but it is a very valid point that you can't just drop that and everything's back to sunshine and rainbows after that, because that's not. These people came to Allie because they have problems, because they're lonely and they have no guidance and no direction, and Allie gave that to her. So where do I guess they're just going to forget about it.
Well, and there's a big power gap, on the inverse world, because she was pretty much in charge over there, and now she's not there. So somebody has to step up and kind of fill that leadership role, or get back to where it should be. But I don't know. There's a big one over there.
Yeah,
so.
True. Any thoughts, Harley?
Yeah, no, there's definitely going to be some fallout on both sides. I mean, I think the Bizarro world will have more fallout just because, like Jeff says, there's definitely like a power gap there, like, who takes over what she was doing. As far as like sorry, she wants the microphone. As far as the cult leaders go, or the cult followers, I mean, honestly, they'll probably just find another one, because there's a hole inside of them that they need filled, and that they're susceptible to people that are predatory and trying to take advantage of folks in that way. So they'll just go on to the next one that's ready to manipulate and take advantage of folks, which is sad, but probably nothing that the show needs to resolve. But I don't know, just my thoughts on that.
And probably they'll probably be even more vulnerable now, because now they're left completely empty without anybody helping them. So they're totally vulnerable to someone else taking over. Yeah, but you're right, the show probably won't address it. They won't need to address it. It's just, like I said, sunshine and rainbows, because that's what happens, right? All right, next up is Dreamweaver. Save me, Dreamweaver, you're my only hope.
Oh, Perry was with you.
Hello, Super Fam. Dreamweaver here with my feedback for Superman and Lois Season 2, Episode 15, Waiting on Superman. Pretty sure I got it right this time. I didn't particularly want to write in feedback for this one, as I thought it was a giant mess. This was probably my least favorite episode of the entire series so far.
I'm saved.
I really only want to give it a 5. The switching between Earths and everyone getting separated felt like just a way to pass the time until Clark got his powers back. And he did that by just getting thrown in the sun with no protection or some kind of device. Okay. His look after getting supercharged was cool, but Clark should not really have survived being in space in that moment. That glitching between worlds probably could have been used to better effect or tie into some sort of plan. It would have been much cooler if they had figured out a pattern and used that to communicate with each other or help each other on each planet to some degree. Half of the dialogue in this episode was, go be with your family, instead of them trying to do something. Like, I know that realistically we would all panic if worlds were merging and everything was glitching, but this is a TV show, and we knew this is what the season has been heading towards the entire time. This just felt really lazy and just a way to emphasize the world's reliance on Superman. We should have seen more of the characters in action, and I'm sorry, but the reunion between Kyle and the rest of the Cushing family was funny to me. It felt very soap opera-y. Everyone was just running around yelling the whole time, and then it was that, like, stop, see everyone in the crowd moment, and there were no emotions there. And even with two worlds merging, I felt almost no fear or stakes for any of the characters, because none of them were doing anything. Jordan did get his hero moment by saving Tal, and Tal showed up with no explanation, just for the plot. And his rush into going to fight Allie was created just for Jordan to have his moment, and once again set up the fact that this world really does only need Superman. Where was Bizarro, Lana, and John? What happened to them? There's no way they would just be waiting around doing nothing. Why weren't they trying to merge? Yes, I'm sure they were flipping back and forth too, but they would definitely be in Smallville trying to find their other halves. That would have added so much more danger and stakes for the characters and given them something to do while Superman is trying to get his powers back. That really annoyed me, them having no part in this finale. How did John Henry and Nat's suit suddenly start working again as Allie was about to attack them? And then they didn't create a very, very compelling or meaningful way for Chrissy to find out about Clark. It was just Lois telling her after all was said and done, and then Chrissy gushing over it the rest of the episode. I feel they definitely could have done this in a much more integrated way, especially after how much they went back and forth on telling Lana, and just a few episodes ago, Lois said that it wasn't her secret to even tell. And this also feels like Lois undermining Chrissy again. Every time Chrissy stands her ground or calls Lois out on something, it seems to get undermined or swept under the rug because Superman, or because Lois says so. It became pretty clear as this episode was moving forward that there weren't any actual, or at least really noticeable, which is a problem, character arcs this season. There were just plot points. Lana had a storyline revolving around becoming the mayor, but then the culmination of that is her getting laughed out by town members at the town hall last episode until Superman showed up. And this episode, Tamara asked Lana, as mayor, what they can all do to help. And all her response is go be with your family. And then again, waiting for Superman to show up. John was going through, just as in Season 1, an identity crisis and questioning his future and where he belongs. And then he does absolutely nothing in this episode but stand around. They literally don't give him anything to do. And he's back with Candace at the festival at the very end, just looking happy. The one thing I liked is that there's a new fortress now, and one for the whole family, so that it's not just Jordan who gets to get in touch with that side of his heritage. Lois also didn't get to do practically anything here, and Bizarro Lois showed up for 5 seconds for no reason. Lois's relationship with Sam and Lucy was her primary story, but Lucy also only showed up at the very end of this episode after everything went down to go start a new life. We didn't get to see the sisters work together or do anything together on the same side this time, even though Lucy was very strongly involved with Allie's plot. And Allie, at the end of the day, was just a bad villain. Her motivation was basically that she was a little lonely, and then decided to try to merge worlds. We got nothing further on her backstory or family history when it was teased, like midway through the season. There was no nuance and not much complexity or reason to feel any bit of empathy at the end of the day for her. The episode was just so empty with some interesting visuals. Looking back, I really think killing off Bizarro Superman was the wrong choice. Him being a part of this to redeem himself to his family and his world, working alongside this Superman, having the chance to interact with Bizarro John again and actually apologize, that would have given an actual story arc, hopefully along with our characters getting something else to do as well. Since there's pretty much no Arrowverse left, it's okay that they aren't on the same Earth here. But it also does feel a bit strange since they did mention Oliver in Crisis last season. Also, Supes being the only superpowered hero on this Earth and everyone relying on him and the constant celebrations of him makes me feel a way I can't quite put my finger on. They're verging into the territory of why I never liked Superman in the first place. Too overpowered and too overly relied on. I know it is his show, but that doesn't mean sacrificing all the other characters just for the main protag. Okay, off my soapbox. Lately, I've also just really been feeling superhero show movie fatigue, and despite liking this cast, there's not much holding my attention with the show right now. And I really think I might need to take a break from this genre for a bit to appreciate it again. There's just absolutely too much right now with all of the Marvel things happening, and even with half of our shows getting axed, and especially with Legends gone, there's not much holding me here. So, those are my scathing thoughts for now. Sorry to be harsh, but from a storytelling standpoint, and especially looking at this as a culmination of a full season, this was not good. Until next time, when I get to talk about Legends, your maybe bizarro friend, Dreamweaver.
Dreamweaver, you are a shining light in the darkness for me this episode. Don't worry. I feel everything you were feeling exactly. You were just much more able to put it constructively than me, ranting and raving all episodes. So, even though we totally agree, you definitely laid it out a lot nicer. And you and Carrie, both your ratings were even lower than mine. So, and I was the one that was angry. But, I'm with you. Definitely, for sure.
Yeah, I do agree with her about the Bizarro having, Superman having a redemption and, maybe working it out with his son, and that kind of stuff would have been very interesting to see.
Yeah, that would have been really good to see too. Yeah. Yeah, and I think she's got a good point too about the superhero fatigue. It is, since the Marvel movies took off and became the world dominating force that they are, we've been flooded with superhero stuff. DC's trying to keep up. Marvel's totally taking advantage of their popularity, so they're releasing TV show after TV show after TV show, and it is a lot. And it's hard for them to come up with something new and something great that's going to really keep us around. You look, like, the Eternals was okay. Black Panther was okay. The TV shows, some of them were really good. Some of them were, Moon Knight was okay, but my personal feeling was a little bit too different, and it's just, they're pumping out so much, and I wonder, like Abby, I wonder how long it can keep going before everybody tires of it and before they've run out of ways to tell stories, because every hero is starting to have a very similar story and a very similar plot line, and I think it's going to get difficult. And DC is just too far behind Marvel now. Look at the trouble they're in. The Flash movie, who knows if we're going to get that? Look at Aquaman now. Now they got to do complete reshoots because of Amber Heard's, legal troubles with Johnny Depp. DC is in a lot of trouble. They're canceling their TV shows. It's a rough go for them right now, and it's just giving Marvel more and more dominance and a bigger piece of the pie in the superhero genre. So I don't know. I understand the feeling. It's a lot. So, but that's also why I watch sci-fi. I love space shows and I love that kind of stuff. That's my escape from superheroes. I go to sci-fi.
Yeah, I saw a teaser for a new one coming out this month that looks interesting, so I'm going to have to check it out. So, yeah.
Cool stuff. Well, that was some awesome feedback. Thank you, everybody, for being part of the finale, and thanks for being with us all season long for Superman and Lois. We do have Legends wrap-up coming and Stargirl coming up later, but again, just thank you guys for being with us for this season. We all look forward to Superman Season 3. Hopefully they figure a few things out. It's not that it was bad, but we'll see what they do next season. So to continue your feedback, there is still time to get in your Legends series wrap feedback. You got a week to do that. And, not quite a week. 5 days, I guess, because we're recording this upcoming Friday. So you can get in some feedback for that. And then as Stargirl catches up to us, get in feedback for that. Join us for that. So here's how you do it.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegendspodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter @tomorrowslegends. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/tomorrowslegends and become part of the community.
We're not quite done yet. We are going to do a quick little talk about our overall season rating for Superman and Lois Season 2. X-Force, what did you think overall?
So overall, I liked it. I gave it 9 fortresses. I enjoyed this season. I enjoyed it a little bit more than Season 1. For some aspects, I like some other aspects better in Season 1, but I liked it because of the team dynamic of really having John Henry and Nat and Jordan and joining in the fight. So I like that. Was Allie the best villain? No. I think Tal-Rho was the better villain out of the seasons that we've had so far, but there are a lot of things for me that kind of made up for that. Bottom line, though, this is my favorite Arrow show, even though it's not in Earth Prime. I still have special spots in my heart for the other shows, but watching and podcasting on this one brings me joy more consistently than other things. So that's kind of how I look at it.
That's a good way to look at it. I like that. I'm not sure if... So I'm wondering, if you had been part of Arrow Squad, if you were podcasting with me on Arrow Squad, would that have given you a different experience about Arrow? Same as, I mean, if you had been with us for Legends all the way through, like, so that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, because like there's a difference between watching it and leaving feedback and hosting on it. I do say that there is a difference there, and I am slowly rewatching Arrow right now and enjoying what I'm rewatching. But I think the thing that does it for me with this show is the way that they treat families and the way the relationship between Clark and Lois and the boys and some of the real life issues of family that they're addressing that we haven't seen. And that's what I enjoy, the sci-fi or the powers and the different things like that, but I think that's what kind of pushes it over the edge because, the other shows may have done some things a little bit better, but like I said, I think the family dynamic is what draws me to it, the heart between this husband and wife and their family.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Superman definitely has nailed the family dynamic, and it's much more grounded and realistic that way. Arrow never really did family stories. I mean, Oliver had a son, but there was no family dynamic there at all, really. I'd say more with Diggle, maybe, but Flash sometimes has a bit of, I think the early seasons of Flash with him and his mom and his dad and dealing with that and, and Joe being the stepdad that raised him. I mean, there was some family dynamic there, just not really traditional family stuff. I would say Stargirl is probably second in line with dealing with family stuff. They're pretty good at that.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, definitely. Superman for sure. Well, my overall season 2 rating I think is going to land, I kept changing it, but I'm going to land at a 7.5 bumps in the sky for the overall season. This season was a bit of a mix for me. It had some really strong episodes that totally give it the claim to being the best CW show, but it also had some slips this season that really worry me that the same old CW garbage is starting to leak in to contaminate this amazing story. And where I'm not with you, X-Force, is I liked season 1 much better as it gave me more emotional connection to the characters and the story, whereas this season was a bit empty in that regard. Because the last season we just, the conflict between the brothers and Tal-Rho coming in and just, I don't know, I felt more connected. And even the Cushings story, I just felt a little bit more connected. This season kind of was a little bit too over the top. I mean, it had its moments, but it didn't carry the whole way through, and that was my issue this season. Their attempt to go really big sometimes was just too over the top, like I said, for Superman. Because Superman is an over-the-top character, like Dreamweaver was saying, but they went way above and beyond, I think, with this story this season, and they have to be careful to not get carried away with themselves. Because the show started as such a grounded family life for Superman story, like you were saying. And elements they brought in this season, I think, interfered with that. This whole alley thing with merging worlds was just too much, and it lost its sense of reality that kept it grounded. And that's why this season isn't as good as last season for me. So 7.5 overall.
Okay. Understandable.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I also really enjoyed this season. I think I would give it probably a 9 also. I mean, as I think back on it, I mean, like, there's a lot of parts that I liked about season 2. I think as a whole, season 1, yes, she will wave if you wave. I think as a whole, like, season 1 it was better put together because I just think it flowed better. But I really did enjoy the whole cult storyline throughout the first half of the episode because I thought that was incredibly well done. And they definitely took the special effects up a notch this season, especially with the finale. And just, I felt like it was more visually stunning this episode, this whole season as well.
Yeah, visuals for sure. I mean, they had such a successful first season. They probably got a little bit more money and time to put in a season 2. But interesting. So we're kind of a mix. I think I was very, very much up for season 1. Jeff's up for season 2, and Harley's kind of been a little bit of both, right? I think both seasons definitely had their merits. I don't know. I think I might even rate them both like pretty much the same. I don't remember exactly what I rated the first season, but
was really good, just like for different reasons. So
cool. Well, there you go. There's our overall season ratings for Superman and Lois. Let's move on. We still got a little more talking to do.
Makes me want to go watch that movie.
Flash Gordon?
Yeah.
Like I tipped our hats off in the beginning, we do have a Flash finale to talk about. Harley has now left the room, as we talked about, because she's not caught up with us. So we're going to have a little discussion here. Or, well, I might continue my rant, but we're going to talk about the negative part 2 for Flash.
Yeah. So, just starting off with a bit of news. So, TV Line reports that Candace Patton has signed a deal for season 9. And I just saw today on there was an article that talked about her absence from this season. And basically, she said on her Instagram that she had written in her contract for season 8 that if, like, the COVID thing the numbers were better and the ease of travel between the U.S. and Canada was better, then she would be in every episode. But if there was some challenges there, then she wouldn't be like contracted to be in every episode. So it was really about her being able to get back and forth to her home in the U.S. as that's the reason why, you know, we didn't see as much of her, and also why, you know, she signed the season 9 contract later than others. So that's kind of some background. We were wondering, you know, what's going on behind the scenes and that kind of stuff. But that's, you know, publicly what we've been told is why the reason that she wasn't, you know, in the season more.
Okay, that's still weird because like all the cast are dealing with the same situation. So why does she have to be different? Like they're all traveling back and forth. It's not, none of them live up here in Canada.
Yeah. I don't know. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is there was an article about Diggle, and they really looked at his like Arrowverse storyline, and him getting rid of the Green Lantern ring is a part of the Blackest Night storyline, which is the one that basically introduces the all the other Lantern Corps. So that's like a hint or a kickoff there, just an Easter egg. So, and he was on board with the storyline of him giving up the ring and things like that. So it was a neat, little article. So those are the little bits of news.
Yeah. Diggle thing, I read that article, and I read another one too, because the producer said, we'd really, really like to do this, and that was kind of our hope, but we don't know if we're going to get to the Blackest Night story, because that would be, I mean, that'd be an even bigger event than Crisis. Like, that's huge.
Oh, that's huge, yeah.
And I don't know if
definitely.
they have the budget or the time to do something like that, but if you can imagine, if they brought that in for Flash's last season, oh my gosh, that could be the best season of Flash ever. But it surprises me. I wonder if just contractually or for, to not get himself in trouble, David Ramsey was saying, oh yeah, I was totally on board, because we all know personally that he really wanted to be Jon Stewart and be Green Lantern. He loves this stuff. He's as nerdy about it as we are.
Yeah.
And he was so excited to get to possibly do that. And for him to just say, oh yeah, nope, I'm good. I totally agree with where they're going with it, and tear that away from him, no way. I bet you personally he's mad and upset.
Well, and it could be that they had teed that up, but that wasn't going to be a reality because of the HBO Max Green Lantern series.
Yeah.
So they came at him with the Justice U option, where not only would he be able to be starring in that, but he would be able to direct and things like that too. So, it could be a little bit of both.
They soften the pot a bit for him.
Yeah. All right. So on to the episode. The cameos were fun. I enjoyed getting to see, the different ones, that we got to see in this episode. But I thought it was just a letdown from the last 2 episodes. I think they had to tie up too much junk from this season.
Yeah.
And too many of us were just confused about the forces. And you've got the positive forces and the negative forces, and, how did they get created and what's going on? And then you have the show's writing of Iris and Cecile. And, I read like one of the creators talking about that everybody was leveling up this season, whether it's powers or emotionally, but I don't, some of those weren't done as well. So, yeah. There were some cool scenes, but for me, it was not a stellar finale. I liked it less than the Superman and Lois one.
Yeah.
And I truly hope that they can write a tighter 9th and final, we think, season, because we got some teasers of a new Reverse Flash in the future, and maybe an integrated Frost that, is neither truly all Caitlin and not Frost that we'd seen before, but maybe a new personality, because that's the way it seems like it's just somebody who has the powers full time. And so I'm curious to see Panabaker, work with that and work with this new character. So I'm excited, because honestly, I'm ready to see, something tighter and better, and something that's a little less confusing than this season. Because this was one of those CW series that got, a ton of episodes, and it's, and it suffered from that, and just suffered from not tight writing. And we had the arc early in the season, and then, so overall, I was just, we had some good episodes in this season, but overall, they were the exception, and I didn't particularly care for the season finale.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people that are with you on that, and it's tough. Flash is really tough, and this, I had high hopes, because we did get, especially in these last 5 or 6 episodes, with the what's his name, Deathstorm, and these other things like that. I had high hopes that Flash was finding itself finally and going to write us into a really good finale, and they ultimately failed. So for me, this was a totally negative experience, and the Flash just seems to know how to mess things up, and I don't mean the character, I mean the show, the writers, the directors, all of them. This was such a farce and such a mess and such an utter disappointment all around for me. It's as if they try to outdo themselves every single season by going bigger and more over the top in the finale, and they just don't have to, because what happens is this becomes so far out there that it loses all enjoyment and connection to its audience. All I have is ranting questions to highlight this finale. Like, here's a few of them. What the hell is the new Thawne? A mix of Care Bear stare magic with Power Ranger lightning colors tossed in with some Rainbow Bright cuteness for effect? Like, he was the absolute worst thing Flash has ever done with a Thawne storyline. His suit looked so stiff and rigid that Tom couldn't even move in it to be believable in the way he moved. And let's talk about Mr. Kavanaugh, who is normally fantastic. This was his worst performance of his Flash career. He was utterly corny, cheesy, and so over the top. His movements and bobblehead waggling that he was doing was just silly looking. And since when do speedsters suddenly just stand around and shoot lightning now? That's all he did. Colorful rainbow lightning to boot. Hence Care Bear stare. Like, and then Barry, that's all he did as well, just shooting lightning. So I also want to ask, when did this power become an ability? I don't think the Flash has ever been able to do that before. Not in the comic books, not in the cartoons, not ever. Shoot lightning like a weapon out of his hands? Like, this is not the Flash at all.
Without running. Like, he's tossed lightning when he's running, but not like just, standing there.
Exactly. So. To me, it's like what a ripoff of Star Wars. He's sitting there acting like Emperor Palpatine, shooting lightning from his hands. And to me, it's completely ridiculous for Flash. I could handle him running to generate the lightning and then throw it. But to just stand there shooting hand beams, it's just like I can't. And why does Iris suddenly have to have some kind of supercharging power now as well? Why do they have to give her abilities too? This has not been the Iris that I know from the comics in many, many seasons. And we've talked about her over and over again, that she's just awful to watch now. And I hate to say it, but I kind of wish they did just kill her off and then have Flash be so angry that he turns bad for a season. That would be more fun that we could get. Like, just, you know, Barry is so upset that he kind of turns, and maybe he becomes friends with Eobard, and the two of them go off, and we have like a 6-episode story arc of Flash being bad. I have no idea, but get rid of Iris, because this is just her whole leveling up or whatever the heck she was doing. You know, she was, I need to reignite the spark, and oh my god, I was choking. It was just ridiculous. I'm also sick of their love story crap. You're my lightning rod, I'm yours, our love conquers all. Like, come on. The Flash has never been about that, and they've taken that and run way too far with this whole love story and Paragon of Love and all this crap. It's gaggingly awful. Now, the negative forces, what was all that about? You said it perfectly, X-Force. We are all confused because they came out of nowhere. Where did they come from? There's no rhyme or reason, as they say. I don't understand what the negative forces were. It kind of made sense in the end, but they dropped this on us like a stone from the sky, and we had no idea where they came from, and it was confusing and just bad story writing. And at this point, I'm kind of feeling like I'm done with the show. I'm only really watching it because I've invested so much time into it already. You know, I'm really, truly sad at where it's come to, and it breaks my Flash heart. You know, I got a Flash tattoo on my shoulder. I go by the name of the Flash, and I'm thinking, am I going to have to change my name for next season? Because I almost don't want to be related to this show anymore by calling myself the Flash. So, I am that upset with where Flash has ended up, and I'm with you. Season 9, oh my gosh! Like, the only thing interesting was Caitlin coming out of, like, we heard it was Danielle Panabaker's voice coming out of that little pod in the end, but it's somebody different. So I am at least very interested in finding out where that goes and who she's going to be. But as for Flash and the gang, like, we talked about Allegra, we talked about Chester, like, they're fine, but I have no emotional connection to them. I'm just not engaged with them, and whether they come or go, I'm not feeling it. So, you know, it's rough. Flash is really, really off.
Yep.
Well, there you go. We got 2 voicemails, though. I'm curious where Perry White and Dreamweaver land on this one. Let's hear what they have to say.
Hey, fam of Steel. It's Perry White here with some feedback for the Flash's finale, Negative Part 2. After listening to feedback on the finale, whether it's been through all sorts of social media outlets, maybe the episode should have been called The Last Jedi, because it feels like you either love it or you hate it. And for me, like The Last Jedi, I loved it. I like that they tied in the Armageddon arc into the finale. I like the way that they brought Damien Dark into the episode. And quite frankly, having him play off of Iris, I felt like it also gave her something to do, which she really hasn't been able to do all season because she's been incredibly sidelined. I also like Zen Barry being the hero that he needed to be, using all he's learned up to this point to beat his arch nemesis. And as much as I had not been a fan of the forces, whether we're talking about the positive or the negative ones, I did like how they tied them into the story and made that work. Whether it was for Iris's time sickness or whether they sort of teamed up to help be the key to help Barry beat Reverse Flash. And I love what they set up for Season 9 with the mystery surrounding this new Frost, as well as the heralded arrival of Cobalt Blue from 2049. I always dig future plots. And you're probably going to laugh at me, but I also like that they poke fun at Cecile's powers. I mean, I never really sort of understood what they were, So basically the show probably felt the same way, and it just sort of felt like they could make them up as they went along. And that's kind of sort of what they did. And to be honest, I'm okay with that. All right, here is what I didn't like. I hated Thawne's black suit. It looked like some sort of demonic S&M outfit. It was just terrible. And here's what I probably would have done differently. I know the show has a love affair with Tom Cavanaugh, and rightfully so. I just wish they had let Matt Lesher play Reverse Flash, revealing that he was pretending to be a good guy all along, or something along those lines, rather than relying on Cavanaugh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If I have to give the finale a rating, I'll give it 8 levels of Zen out of 10. I like how it concluded the season. The time sickness is gone. Hallelujah. And I really dig what it set up for the next season. I mean, that's what season finales are supposed to do, right? And this one succeeded. Well, this is Perry White making another finale deadline, and I'm out.
Well, Perry, that is shocking. Here I thought we were buddies after Superman finale. Now we're on opposite sides of the fence again. You brought up a point, and it's something else I have to rant at, so forgive me, but the Flash, the fastest man alive, the speedster, sits down in the middle of the road and crosses his legs and meditates, and that's how he defeats his villain? This is the Flash. He doesn't sit down and meditate. That is absolute garbage and ridiculous and stupid, and it doesn't show me anything about Barry learning his lesson or learning nothing. No, it's stupid. This is a show about the fastest man alive, and you want to tell me he's going to win by sitting down and doing nothing? Oh my God, I was yelling at the screen. That is just infuriating to me. Infuriating. What do you think, X-Force? Like the Flash sitting on the ground. What is that?
Well, they had done it earlier when he was in the Still Force, but still, I don't know.
It's stupid. It's so stupid. All right, Dreamweaver, let's see what you got to say.
Hello again, Dreamweaver here, this time with my thoughts on the Flash's Season 8 finale, which I must be Bizarro Abbey tonight, because I enjoyed watching this one more than I did Superman and Lois.
No!
I certainly thought there was still hokiness to it, and the first few minutes had me going, oh no. But I was pleasantly surprised at how things panned out. Yeah, I didn't love everything. Negative Force Reverse Flash was awful, right down to even his physical acting. But also, I might not blame Cavanaugh for that one, as that black suit was horrendous. First, they put him back in the ketchup and mustard Reverse Flash suit that looks patched together and barely holding on. And then we get this... I really want to say unfamily-friendly things about it, but I think someone wrote in a new suit at the last minute, and the poor costume designers had to stitch something together out of anything. And then he mainly just shot colorful bolts of electricity out of his hands and killed people for no good reason. And even Cavanaugh's acting overall in all of his scenes was just off. The Negative Force's motivation wasn't that solid. It was mainly just causing chaos again because they saw that they could for the sake of causing chaos. There were a fair amount of Deus Ex Machinas that happened that definitely could have been dropped or explored a few episodes beforehand. That would have made better sense and given time to flesh those concepts out, like Cecile's connection to Bashir and what happened to the positive forces and getting them back. That could have been worked on for a few episodes, as well as a reminder about the Time Stone and bring that back into play before this episode. I had forgotten all about it from Armageddon. But the shining point for me was Barry's arc. Seeing him actually use the things he's learned in the season to go against Reverse Flash, and not use his rushed anger against him like he typically does, and to see Thawne's thirst for his power be part of his own downfall. I thought that was relatively powerful and a good use of the arc. Watching Barry actually slow down and not be impulsive. Yes, he had the positive forces inside him, but he finally learned something against Thawne, and he remembered what he had been learning throughout the entire season. And it wasn't just a lover hope speech. So I enjoyed watching that, even if some things leading to that definitely were a bit rushed. Also, always loved seeing John Wesley Shipp back as Jay, and the one scene where all the speedsters are throwing their lightning together was pretty cool. So definitely not my favorite, but better than a few of the past finales. And albeit brief, the tease for a new version of Frost being back and the possibility of Cobalt Blue is an actual exciting tag for next season. Alright, that's all my thoughts there, as I know Carrie and Martin and I have already been talking about it and hashing it out over on the Facebook pages and discussions, so I know where some others fall already, but interested to hear everyone's thoughts. That's all for now. Until next time, your friend Dreamweaver.
Interesting. It's funny. I don't know. And it could be, like, I watched the Flash finale first and then went in Superman, so maybe Flash kind of gave me a much more sour taste in my mouth and I just wasn't ready for Superman's finale, but, you know, maybe I'll watch it a third time after some time has passed. I don't know. Flash was the worst. It's probably their worst finale they've ever done. There's nothing about that episode to like except for the possibility of a new Frost. I don't know. That's just my opinion, of course, but it was rough stuff. I missed what's this? All this talk that everyone's mentioning Cobalt Blue. I missed any hints about that. Where did that come from?
That was the blue stone in 2049.
Wow, I can't even picture that.
When Barry is talking with Iris about the negative Speed Force always needs an avatar, and you're seeing the scenes of the lab in 2049 and then the glowing blue stone. So,
okay, I must have missed that. Okay, well, hopefully that's not just a tease. We will see. All right, guys. Well, thanks for that added feedback for Flash. This is going to take us out to the end of the episode. Yeah, so
yes,
Superman and Lois is done until what is it? 2023? That's when it comes back.
Yeah, late January, early February. So same time as this year. So
cool. So we got a long wait, but Stargirl's going to fill us in. That'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, again, just want to say thanks to everybody for being with us all season long, and I'm glad I had a couple friends in the end because I was feeling like, am I the only one that didn't like this episode? But turned out to be okay in the end. So, what we got coming up next is just our Legends finale. That's kind of the last thing for us, and we'll have a little bit of time off, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Good stuff. I'm going to be guesting with Vizsla over on his Inside the Force podcast. We're doing a council sessions. I'm not sure what we're talking about. I think we're talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Something to do with, is he the greatest Jedi ever, or something like that. I'm not sure what question. It's one question we get into. So
cool.
If you guys want to check out Inside the Force, you'll see us over there. That's all I got, guys. We're moving on to Patreon bonus. This is The Flash signing off.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
This is X-Force 11. So say we all.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, HBO, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network. Be sure to check out our partner shows, The Mandalore and Dive into DC, covering your favorite Star Wars and DC Comics properties. Thanks for listening.